Obamacare remains the news and controversy gift that just keeps on giving. How long can the Obama administration continue to duck and cover over a law that is bordering on both illegal and a massive overreach of executive authority? Let the experts weigh in. The president also has to answer for seeking to put money in the pockets of fellow Democrats while missiles fly in Israel, planes fall out of the sky in Ukraine, and that little note about health care. Dick Morris has more than a few thoughts on this and other matters. And is, if you couldn't already assume, as dangerous as assuming sometimes is, guess which citizens of a specific nation are not getting the real story about Vladimir Putin's involvement in the MH17 tragedy. Delivering once again to the smartest audience in broadcast TV, the fastest 3 hours of news sets the tone again as we question everything for Wednesday, July 23rd, 2014. There is also this matter. And those who are always the first to defend a person's right to speak their mind. That's the focus of my commentary and telling it like it is later in the hour. First up, it's John Bachman in this edition of Newsmax Now.
Thanks for that, Ed. Wednesdays are a busy day on Capitol Hill normally when Congress is in session. No different today. GOP leadership announcing a new plan aimed at speeding up the deportation process. Congressman Kay Granger, a member of the Speaker's Immigration Working Group, says these proposed changes announced today can be done while ensuring the protection of unaccompanied minors. The plan calls for more National Guard troops to head south to the U.S.-Mexico border. But Democrats say this plan will put kids at risk by sending them back into the arms of gangs in Central America. Meantime, the influx of illegals has seen some 60,000 illegal immigrants cross the U.S.-Mexico border in just the last 9 months. Now, high-ranking officials in Congress say we can't wait any longer. If the House doesn't act soon, officials say our immigration courts could soon collapse. That's because there are some 375,000 cases right now already in backlog in the immigration court. Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama, one of the loudest critics on immigration reform, is urging Congress to reject the president's $3.7 billion plan. Obama's plan includes money for immigration judges and detention facilities, but Sessions says the White House plan only makes things worse for the rest of America.
We need rising wages, not falling wages. We can't help those living here today if we keep bringing in record numbers of new workers to compete for their jobs, to drive up unemployment, and that pull down wages. And that's just fact.
Now, we are getting some new information that the number on a day-to-day basis might be declining, but the most recent reports still say that we could eclipse the 100,000 number of illegal immigrants coming into this country by the end of the year. Meantime, Obamacare, as you heard Ed mention, continues to create chaos and anxiety in Washington, on Main Street, and in your doctor's office. This as one federal appeals court in Washington ruled that subsidies in the Affordable Care Act that help millions of people pay for their health insurance, or are supposed to anyway, are illegal. But later in the day, a different appeals court in Richmond, Virginia, upheld those same subsidies. Regardless, the White House says they will continue to have that money flowing to customers. And White House spokesman Josh Earnest had this to say about these conflicting appeals court rulings.
Need a fancy legal degree to understand that Congress intended for every eligible American to have access to tax credits that would lower their health care costs.
I don't know, Josh. Every day it seems like we might need a fancy legal degree to understand this law. Of course, once again, we could see Obamacare heading back to the Supreme Court for another look. And don't forget, the High Court already slapped the president's use of executive action. There was a bad decision for Democrats on union dues. We can't forget the Hobby Lobby case either. John Bachman will have more news ahead in 30 minutes. Now here's Ed.
Okay.
Two federal appeals courts coming to different conclusions about the financing of the health care law. There's one court in Washington, D.C. says money to help people pay their premiums can only flow in states that have set up their own insurance markets. That's a problem for the law because 36 states are in the federal market. They have not set up these health insurance exchanges. But in Richmond, you had another federal appeals court come to the opposite conclusion, and they said consumers in all 50 states are eligible to receive these subsidies.
In sports, there is a betting concept called the over-under. It's where a number is set and you, the gambler, have to decide if the total amount of points in a game will be over or under that line. When it comes to President Obama and the Affordable Health Care Act, it is now fitting to use the over-under idea on a daily basis. As in how many times the word disaster can be used in talking about what has become a national headache for those seeking health care, and a president who cannot seem to escape the reality of this nightmare. Place your bets. We dig into the latest with Newsmax Deputy Health Editor Nick Tate, author of the Obamacare Survival Book, joining us here in the studio. And let's also welcome in by phone Senior Legal Analyst Ken Klukowski joins us. Ken, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Ken, I'm going to ask you to hold on for a moment here because Nick, as the guy who has written an awful lot about Obamacare, first from the non-legal standpoint here, sort of bring us up to speed as what happened yesterday and where it has sat today.
Essentially, the D.C. court ruled today that the subsidies that are going to millions of Americans to help pay for their insurance under Obamacare are illegal. Now, the subsidies are a little bit like the stray thread on a sweater. You pull it and the whole thing unravels. They really are, Obamacare, are illegal. Now, the subsidies are a little bit like the stray thread on a sweater. Your medicine go down with some of those laws has been the subsidies. The White House has said we're going to implement this law. Yes, there are going to be big changes, but we're going to help you pay for it with the subsidies. And now the D.C. court decision is saying, hold on, we're not going to do that. They actually, technicality of law, the letter of the law says you cannot do this, and it really raises questions about the underpinning financials of Obamacare.
And the law that sits there is...
Technicality of law, the letter of the law says you cannot do this, and it really raises questions about the underpinning.
36 states that use the federally run system. This was a mistake from the word go.
That's right. I mean, it's interesting, this 2,500-page law, these are really just a couple sentences in the law, but they're really, really critical. And so the court is basically saying, as written, those 36 states, which accounts for about $36 billion in federal subsidies, will just simply go away. Now, Congress could act, and they could amend the law. Not likely to happen. There are some states, in those 36 states, governors could decide to implement their own exchanges, as they have in 14 of those states. And there's even some talk about the governors there being able to do kind of an end around and contracting with the federal government to run the exchanges. But the likelihood that those things will happen is a great uncertainty, great questions, and when there's uncertainty and confusion, as there's been kind of all along, it really affects consumers. That those things will happen is a great uncertainty, great questions, and when there's uncertainty and confusion, a lot of confusion, and what it's going to mean for the average consumer, we just don't know.
All right, Ken, let's go ahead and turn to you now from a legal standpoint, because knowing full well that in any document such as these, lawyers go over it and over it and over it, and certainly they have the government lawyers involved here, the president's lawyers involved here. How much of a real, and I almost want to use the word hysterical, gaffe is it that we've gotten to this point right now, and this law comes down to wording, and this was not considered before it was actually enacted?
Well, let me both give what Congress did and why they did it that way. Now,
Okay.
What we're talking about is Section 1401 of the Affordable Care Act. And I'm speaking here, I was one of the lawyers involved in this litigation up to the Supreme Court the first time around, and now I'm representing parties in a parallel case elsewhere in the country raising the same issue as what the appeals courts decided yesterday. So I've been dealing with the ACA every day of my life for more than 4 years now.
We're already sorry for that. We'd like to offer our condolences.
Thank you. It's been, let me tell you, they could rename it the Full Employment Act for Lawyers, because there is just a host of legal issues going on here. Section 1401 is the one that confers the subsidies. And in doing so, it says two things. It says that you're eligible to receive them if you have an insurance policy purchased on an exchange, quote, established by a state under 1311. Now, that number is important because in the Act, Section 1311 of the Affordable Care Act is for state exchanges. If states refuse to do it, the federal government sets up an exchange under 1321 of the Act. The federal exchanges come from a different part of the Obamacare law. So the subsidy section in the ACA does not just say established by a state, but it also specifies specifically what section of the law it came from. Established by a state means it does not include the federal government, and under 1311, Section 1311, means it can't come from the federal exchange, which is not 1311, it's 1321. So you have a double textual basis for saying that is not what Congress is talking about. Now, why they did it this way. The Obamacare system was designed to create a nationalized health care system that I believe would eventually morph into a single-payer system. Now, in terms of doing that, they tried to hook tens of millions of Americans on the idea of government-run health care. But they also understood that in our federal level of government, you don't just have the federal government, you also have the sovereign states. And if the states go along with things, they can make it much better for the administration. If states oppose it, it can cause enormous problems, as we've seen over the past 4 years now. And so they tried to use a series of two carrots and hooks to get the states on board. One was Medicaid expansion, to double the size of Medicaid, and to ask the states to do it voluntarily, because under clear Supreme Court precedent, it violates the 10th Amendment if the federal government commands the states to do something. So they had to ask them to do it, quote-unquote, voluntarily. But in order to make it an offer they couldn't refuse, like Don Corleone out of the Godfather series, they said, and if you don't volunteer for this, we will cancel all of your Medicaid funding. We will strip from you every dollar that you currently get from Medicaid. That the Supreme Court held in the 2012 case, this was the part that was a victory for the states. They struck down that part of the law, saying that was a coercion of the states, and that also then violates the 10th Amendment. This is the other inducement that they were trying, and that was to say to the states, we cannot command you to set up exchanges. You have to do it voluntarily. If you do it, all of your middle-income voters are going to get big, generous tax subsidies. If you don't do it, all of your citizens are still being commanded to buy insurance, but they're going to have to buy it full freight. And they thought they could generate grassroots pressure on state governments to join Obamacare and thereby blunt any future political opposition, give the whole Republican Party and every state skin in the game to try and make the Obamacare system work, and it backfired on them.
All right, Ken, I'm going to take what you just said, and you just gave pretty much everything we needed to know about this and more, and a lot of things that people have not heard. But I want to come back to what you said, and I'm going to bring Nick into this right now, and I'll get your comments in just a second. I heard the words carrot and stick from Ken here. This does not seem like carrot and stick. This sounds like bait and switch. It almost is a perfect example of that the government knew what they were doing. They knew this was going to happen, so it's almost a trip system. Come on in, now we got you. It almost is a perfect example of that the government knew what they were doing. They knew this was going to happen.
A state exchange. But as Ken points out, and others have as well, in fact, what they were trying to do, the argument can be made that what the law really is trying to do is induce the states to come in and participate. And as he suggests, it backfires. The other thing that's interesting to me is the other state, compelling state issue, the Medicaid issue, was the ones to come in and participate. And as he suggests, it backfires. The other thing that's interesting to me is the other state, compelling state issue, the Medicaid issue, was the one issue that the Supreme Court struck down and when they ruled it up again. But if they do, this is the other piece of the state issue that is, if we see what they've done before, one could make a reasonable argument that past performance suggests that they would very seriously look at striking down this aspect as well. And as I suggested, it's a little piece of the law, but it has huge implications.
Ken, I got about 30 seconds left. Let me go to you then. Supreme Court then, is that the next spot we're going to see this contested? And what, if anything, do you expect may happen?
But it has huge implications.
Ken, I got about 30 seconds left. Let me go to you then. Supreme Court then, is that the next spot?
Supreme Court will take this case. The only question is whether in the D.C. case alone, they specifically, the administration tries to get the full D.C. Circuit to rehear it. But the challengers who lost in Richmond in the Fourth Circuit will petition the Supreme Court directly. The only question will be, does the court hear it in the spring of 2015 with a decision by June, or does it get punted until the fall of 2015, in which case we get a decision in 2016? It will be a 5-4 decision. Chief Justice Roberts will be the swing vote, not Justice Kennedy. And this will be the great test of John Roberts. He doesn't have to strike down anything in the law. All he has to do is strike down a federal regulation. And if he does, this will be an enormous restoration for the rule of law in terms of state autonomy when it comes to health care.
All right, all out of time there. Ken, thanks so much for joining us. Over Under is certainly what we're going to do. We thank Nick Tate as well for joining us. And by the way, Senator Orrin Hatch on Obamacare said today, Obamacare is working very well for those who don't exist. We know you exist. We'll continue right here on MidPoint.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, guarding your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose. When you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
Mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 58 years old.
This disease just ravages a family.
It changes your life. If we work together, we can stop this epidemic. Now is the moment.
Contact Bright Focus and learn more.
I just received a call from Congressman Kingston. He was very gracious, and I have the utmost respect for Jack, his family, his supporters, and friends. He's a tough competitor. He made me better, and he ran a spirited race. I want to thank him for that.
A few minutes ago, I called David Perdue, and I told him two things. I said, David, the numbers are not trending in our direction, and they're probably not going to change. They won't. And I congratulate you on a victory well fought.
A big upset in the Georgia Senate runoff. Time to warm up the Supremes for another round with Obamacare. The White House slapping down any thought that the president doesn't care about world issues as he heads out to yet another fundraiser. And all the news it's fit to rumble on. Welcome back to MidPoint. Veteran political analyst, commentator, and armed with details certain people in Washington wish you weren't being told about, but he's got them on a daily basis. Dick Morris joins us here on MidPoint. Dick, we've got to start right out with Obamacare now and the reaction that's coming out of Washington, because no matter what the president and the administration says, guess what? They got themselves a real mess on their hands here.
They sure do. And bear in mind, there are two shoes left to drop. Courts in Oklahoma and Indiana have not yet ruled on parallel lawsuits being brought in those states. I think the main effect of this ruling is that, the D.C. ruling, is that it legitimizes this case, and it makes it mainstream rather than just a kooky lawsuit trying to overturn the law. And I think that it's going to be very hard with that history for the court to rule in favor of the government. I thought it's so significant that the opinions that wanted to sustain Obamacare, that is, not to read the plain language of the statute, all talked about don't gut this program and millions of people depend on it and so on and so on. The argument that overturned the regulation said it says what it says. It says that it has to be through a state exchange, and who are we to rewrite that? We're not the Congress, we're the court. And I think that that procedural approach to it, kind of a judicial restraint approach to it, really will appeal to Roberts and to Kennedy, the swing votes on the court, because they're really not making a judgment about Obamacare. They're making a judgment about the powers of the court. And in a strange way, judicial reticence will sanction judicial activism.
What does this tell us, though, Dick, in many ways, about the ineptitude of putting this law together in the first place? We have seen language issues before, but again, this is based on something, we talked about it a couple of moments ago here on the show, a bait and switch, basically, and failing to protect yourself and at least get it ready to go into the future here. It just strikes as amazing ineptitude on the administration's part.
Well, I don't think it was ineptitude. I think it was parliamentary finagling. What happened was they had 60 votes in the Senate for one divine moment right after the election. And then in December of 2009, they lost their 60th vote or December of 2010, they lost their 60th vote when Scott Brown defeated Coakley to become the senator from Massachusetts. So now they were down to 59. Well, they still had 60. In fact, that Christmas, before the change of senators occurred, they rammed this thing through the Senate with 60 votes. Then they sent it to the House. And the House looked at it and they said, we want all these changes to be made, including correcting this language. But in the meantime, Scott Brown took a seat, and the House looked at it and they said, we want all these changes to be made, including correcting this language. Changes. You can't change a comma, because if you do that, it'll go to conference, it'll go back to the Senate, and I don't have 60 votes anymore. And that's what happened. The language itself was inserted as a payoff to Ben Nelson, senator from Nebraska, who said, I don't want to federalize this thing. I want it to be controlled by the states. And that's why they put that language in when they lost their 60 votes, even with Nelson. I don't want to federalize this thing. I want it to be controlled by the states. And that's why they put that language in.
Nomination now yesterday. David Perdue narrowly beat Jack Kingston. Kingston 11 terms. What exactly, in your opinion, does this say not only about Georgia, but what's coming up? And that's going to be the battle against Michelle Nunn on the Democratic side.
Oh, I think that there won't be much of a battle against Michelle Nunn. I think Perdue will win that easily. I think that but you do have to see the Kingston defeat and what was in effect the Cochran defeat within the Republican primary electorate, even though he won by borrowing some Democratic votes. You have to see those as a piece. That in the South, you're either a conservative because you deeply believe in it, or because you're a politician who represents his state and he deeply believe in it. Conservative because you deeply believe in it, or because you're a politician who represents his state. They really are. And what those two elections represent is the victory of the ideological movement conservative over the professional politician who is a conservative. And I think that attests to the strength not only of the Tea Party, but of the impetus behind it.
Dig in a little bit, if you will, on Michelle Nunn here, because she has raised more than $9 million, reported $2.3 million left to spend. She's raising a tremendous amount of money there. There are those who feel that it will be competitive. Tell us a little bit why you think $9 million, reported $2.3 million left to spend. She's raising a tremendous amount of money there.
Because they want to see Democratic gains, because they see all these likely Republican upsets, and they want to see something that might countervail it. But Nunn has never led in the polls against anybody, against Kingston or against Perdue. The fact that it was even close was likely because you had a very divisive Republican primary filled with negatives, and they were beating each other up, and Michelle Nunn looked good, although she still lagged in the polls. And everybody's hoping that because her father was a conservative Democrat, everyone will think that she is. But she's not. And the voters of Georgia will see that.
We have seen record low turnouts, quite frankly, in an awful lot of the primary elections right now. In your opinion, is this widespread apathy from the voters, or is there something we're missing?
Oh, I think it's apathy, it's cynicism, it's being turned off. It's
from the voters, or is there something we're missing?
Oh, I think it's apathy, it's cynicism. But the whole thing means it is more likely for a Republican victory. The fact of the matter is that most of the voters that stay home in off-year elections would vote Democrat if they showed up.
A couple of minutes we have left here. Let's get your opinion on the two main stories that we're following. Certainly what's happening in the Ukraine, the shoot down of MH17, the stare down that is now beginning with Vladimir Putin. In your opinion now, where does and where can President Obama go, as Vladimir Putin basically has said, it's not us, walk away, I don't care, and it does seem to be almost old Cold War standoff again?
Well, I know, I mean, what Obama should do is to develop a backbone and be aggressive on this. There are 3 steps that would solve this problem. 1, put the missiles back in Poland and the Czech Republic like they were planning to be, and Obama removed them when he took office, or removed the plans to put them in. Put them back. We know that that drives Republic like they were planning to be, and Obama removed them when he took office, or removed the facilities in the U.S., so that we can take this plethora of gas we have, put it in liquid form, put it on a tanker, and send it across the ocean to Europe to break Putin's monopoly. And thirdly, eliminate the requirement that every single cubic meter of natural gas exports has to be approved by the U.S. government. Signal Russia that we're opening the flow. Russia's time on the world stage is sharply limited. The United States' growth through fracking and other energy development dooms a country totally reliant on energy. It's going to doom Saudi Arabia, it's going to doom Russia for the same reason. It's just a matter of time. Putin's acting aggressively while he's totally reliant on energy. It's going to doom Saudi Arabia, it's going to doom Russia for the same reason. It's just a state of their disempowerment by increasing our natural gas exports.
Do you think people like Angela Merkel of Germany are willing to get behind the president at this point? Because it certainly seems like he's got to have some help from the EU over there, but so far we haven't seen any coming at all.
Well, I think Merkel and Hollande, both of whom have commercial interests on the other side of the fence, legitimate ones for their country, are increasingly facing pressure from within the European Union, not only from Easternists on the other side of the fence, legitimate ones for their country, are increasingly facing pressure and from Great Britain, where Cameron has been very forceful on the subject. And I expect they're going to have to move, and I expect that as the Russians are more and more outrageous in this thing, you're going to see movement toward aggressive sanctions. The key thing we want them to do is to disapprove the Russian pipeline, which would connect Germany directly with Russia. Key thing we want them to do is to disapprove the Russian pipeline, and if it were killed, that would be a big blow to Putin. Europe can end this war very quickly if it rains. That pipeline is now on hold, and if it were killed, that would be a big blow to Putin.
Just as soon have him butt out.
Well, they would assume he butt out because the U.S. is hoping for civilian casualties that they can use to demand Israel have a ceasefire. Israel says, I want to get rid of those tunnels first. And Israel's right and the U.S. is wrong.
All right, there we go. Dick Morris, always a pleasure, my friend. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, still ahead, Vladimir Putin remains the most popular man in Russia. This, of course, likely because most people in Russia are used to being fed a diet chock full of something other than the truth. Well, guess what? They're still getting something other than the truth, and the man is frightfully popular back home. How that affects what's happening when we continue on MidPoint.
Are you ready to take it all off this summer?
I took it all off, and I'm glad I did. 35 pounds gone.
If you said that I could get in a bathing suit again, I'd say you're crazy. But I did it.
There's still time to look hot and feel great this summer. And now, lose your first 5 pounds fast with a Fast 5 from Nutrisystem.
I've lost 40.5 pounds on Nutrisystem, and I feel fabulous.
You'll lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
I'm Erin, and I lost 30 pounds.
Order your 28-day My Way plan right now, and we'll rush you the Fast 5 free. You'll get 1 week of fantastic energizing shakes, 1 week of amazing craving crusher shakes, 1 week of delicious meals, all free. And the best news, call in the next 4 minutes and you'll also get the all-new smoothies, absolutely free. Millions of people have lost weight with Nutrisystem, and now you can too. Time is running out. Call now and get all this, plus 1 week of smoothies free. Don't wait.
Call 877-295-SIZE and lose your first 5 pounds free.
Technology gives you security. Technology gives you control. And now, technology gives you home security and control in a new and revolutionary way. Introducing Plug and Protect from LiveWatch Security, an easy-to-use wireless security system customized just for your home, controlled from any smartphone, tablet, or computer, and monitored by professionals 24/7. Go to livewatch.com to get Plug and Protect interactive security delivered to your door. Arm or disarm your system from anywhere. Lock or unlock your doors. Turn your lights off or on. Even oversee your home with live video. With Plug and Protect, your security system is configured, tested, and then shipped direct off or on. Even oversee your home with live video. With Plug and Protect, your security, because with Plug and Protect, we customize your security to fit your home. The Plug and Protect secret is technology. With technology, you buy airline tickets without a travel agent. You trade stocks without a stockbroker. Now, with Plug and Protect, you can protect your home without an installer, pushy salesman, or a long contract.
Every day, the kids got out of school before I left work. I worried whether they were home okay. But then I found Plug and Protect from LiveWatch. And now I see when they open the front door, so I know they're home safe. LiveWatch helps me stay in touch and in control.
Founded by a paramedic in Kansas, serving tens of thousands of homes in all 50 states, and trusted by policemen and firemen throughout the country, LiveWatch is the new choice for home security. No door-to-door salespeople, no messy installers, no long-term contracts, just plug and protect. Now you too can enjoy the home security and control you want for your family. Try Plug and Protect in your home for a full 90 days. Included is our hassle-free guarantee. Go to livewatch.com. Plug and Protect is not available in stores, so go to livewatch.com right now. That's livewatch.com.
Hello, I'm John Bachman. Welcome to this Newsmax Now update. Not long ago, the first flight filled with bodies and victims from Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 arrived in the Netherlands. The bodies will now undergo a formal identification and forensic examination in more friendlier territory. The victims were flown out of the MH17 arrived in the Netherlands. The bodies will now undergo a formal identification and forensic examination and one Australian. Hundreds of relatives were there waiting for the arrival. The planes carried a total of 40 coffins in all. Meantime, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says there have been, quote, steps forward in the diplomacy aimed at ending the fighting between Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas. He met with the Palestinian president in Jerusalem with the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Later today, Kerry will also meet with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Tel Aviv at the headquarters of Israel's defense forces. More news ahead. I'm John Bachman. Now here's Ed.
Thank you, John. No website delivers more accurate and detailed information about the news of the day than the mothership, Newsmax.com. Our daily check of the headlines turns us now to managing editor Tim Colley to get the latest. Tim, thanks for joining us once again. We got a busy little news day here, don't we?
We've got a very busy news day. We're having a very busy news week.
Now let's go ahead and get right to it. Top of the page right now, big bold letters. And this will probably not shock a lot of people, Tim. Thousands of migrant children are no-shows at hearings.
No surprise, and the Justice Department, which is the source of this, estimates that about 46% are no-shows. But I have to say, these numbers aren't based on the most recent wave. So, for example, last week out of 20 cases, 18 didn't show up. So that's 90% no-show.
Also down the line a little bit under Newsfront, federal agents get Obamacare using fake IDs. Now, we talked about Obamacare a little bit earlier in the program, and we got a very detailed idea of exactly what's going on here as far as the courts are concerned. But this was interesting. The GAO went out and they actually did a little sting operation here and caught Obamacare in an awful lot of fraud.
Yeah, it was surprisingly easy, and they have known about this for some time because there, of course, was the massive screw up with the different databases, getting online, getting background files linked. It's a massive undertaking trying to link up federal records to DMV records in 50 states. And what they found was it was surprisingly easy to just, sign up and get your subsidies.
It really was interesting, too, to see Senator Orrin Hatch in here. He's got to have the comment of the day, I would guess, where he said Obamacare is working really well for those who don't exist. That's basically what this is. We have taxpayers getting involved here, and there's money changing hands, and these are people that don't exist. You wonder, of course, what the fallout will be and what the White House will say about this, but doesn't this again still tell us that there's so many things that are going on in this system right now? There's so many handoffs, and there's so many groups, and there's so many people, and there's so many checks and balances that aren't being used that it really seems as if at times that it is completely unwieldy and there's no way to make it work.
Oh, yeah, and keep in mind, these were investigators trying to just look for the holes. We don't know how many people have already thought of these scams and are working them around the clock. There's been some scattered reports here or there, but it could take years to look at what the fraudulent cost of this could be.
Also, we have to turn to Ukraine as well. Here's another note from the website. Senator Chambliss to Obama, release classified information on downed plane in Ukraine. I don't know if this is really going to happen here, Tim, because honestly, it might be a little too early on this, seeing as this investigation is going to go in so many different ways now. We get to the actual crash site itself, and the investigators find that the cockpit's been cut up. There's pieces missing here. So it would seem as if different ways now. We get to the actual crash site itself, and the investigators find that the cockpit's been...
Yeah, well, keep in mind, too, there's the actual crash site, but this is the most observed place probably on Earth right now. It was before this crash, with military satellites, various foreign satellites, tasked with looking at this. So they've got, I think most of the evidence is going to come from satellites showing this missile being launched, hitting the rocket, where it came from. I haven't heard anybody except maybe the Russian media raising doubts about the evidence that's been leaked so far. But again, I think nobody is really holding out high hopes for what's going to be found on Russian media raising doubts about the evidence that's been leaked so far. But again, I think nobody...
You got to build your case here, too. Last shot, about 20 seconds left. Israel scrambles to restore foreign flights to Tel Aviv. Hit them right in the tourist season, too.
Yeah, and I don't think they saw this coming. They have been worried in Israel for a long while about boycotts and embargoes, but this one came completely out of the blue, and this can really wreak havoc. Because you're talking about European carriers, you're talking about U.S. traffic, and it's the summer. So, yeah, it could have a very, very serious effect on their economy.
Benjamin Netanyahu is not happy, neither the Israelis. We'll wait and see what happens on that. Tim Colley, always a pleasure, my friend. Get back to work, will you please? We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Will do, Ed. Thanks a lot.
All right, Tim Colley, managing editor of Newsmax.com. Again, the main news story on the website right now, thousands of migrant children are no-shows at hearings. It is only at Newsmax.com. Now let's take time out for yet another American Moment.
When Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam, fell on the 30th of April, 1975, America's long conflict there may have ended, but it took decades for the nation to heal its wounds. In 1973, President Nixon orchestrated the Paris Peace Accords, bringing to an end America's involvement in the Vietnam War. America's POWs returned home, and all seemed well until March of 1975, when Senator Ted Kennedy led the Vietnam War. America's POWs returned home, and all seemed well until March of 1975, reneged on the peace accords and invaded their neighbors to the south. Without U.S. support, South Vietnam fell to the communists, and throughout South Vietnam, a bloodbath ensued as hundreds of thousands of South Vietnamese who had backed the U.S. were massacred. Empowered by the events in Vietnam, communists in Laos and Cambodia soon toppled their pro-Western regimes, and Southeast Asia became a killing field, with the genocide of an additional 2 million people. You're watching An American Moment. On Newsmax TV.
Summer's here, and now's the best time to get clear skin. That's why the amazing Proactive Plus has a totally new offer like never before. Order the faster, more effective Proactive Plus today. Get free shipping and 2 of our hottest customer favorites, worth $37 free. Our deep cleansing body wash, plus our best-selling dark spot corrector. It's your summer glow duo for sexy, summer-ready skin all over.
The body wash is amazing. Now I can wear tank tops. I can wear bathing suits. I just feel free now, like I can wear whatever I want.
And if you're dealing with dark marks, age spots, or even sun damage, you're going to love the dark spot corrector.
Since using the dark spot corrector, the dark spots that I'd had from acne, it's like going away. My skin looks amazing.
I would just put it wherever there was a blemish, and before I knew it, they faded.
You'll be astonished how quickly Proactive Plus can fix your skin. In fact, it clears blemishes 4 times faster than the leading topical prescription. And nourishing ingredients give your skin extra care.
And now that my skin's clear, I feel so sexy, so confident. It makes me want to show off how good my skin looks.
Acne medicine and skincare products can cost you hundreds. But call now and get Proactive Plus for only $39.95. And you get our amazing body wash, plus the incredible dark spot corrector, both free. Still not sure? Then we'll make this offer irresistible. Act fast and we'll knock $10 off. Just $29.95. And shipping is free.
Give it a try. Don't settle with being unhappy with your skin. Proactive Plus works.
Get all this, a $109 value for just $29.95. And if your skin isn't absolutely gorgeous, we'll send your money back, guaranteed. But call before this offer sells out. Call 1-800-397-8177. That's 1-800-397-8177.
My preference continues to be finding a diplomatic resolution within Ukraine. I believe that can still happen. That is my preference today, and it will continue to be my preference. But if Russia continues to violate Ukraine's sovereignty and to back these separatists, and these separatists become more and more dangerous and now are risks not simply to the people inside of Ukraine, but the broader international community, then Russia will only further isolate itself from the international community, and the costs for Russia's behavior will only continue to increase.
It is fair to say that at any given moment in a certain spot on the globe, heads are percolating, or percolating, depending on which area of the country you're from, and waiting for the perfect moment to explode with righteous indignation, rumors, backlash, and often boorish bile. But hey, that's why we love Washington, D.C. There is no place more worthy of daily play-by-play. And we go inside the Beltway to hear what is being said and which heads are the next to simmer, despite the fact there's not much at all going on there today. Welcome in from the Washington Times, columnist Jennifer Harper joins us today on MidPoint. Jennifer, thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Jennifer, does the White House really think that the American people are this stupid? I can only think of no other way to put it. When the president continues to go out on fundraising trips, there's emergencies happening around the world, and their answer coming back is, wait a minute, we need to show a sense of calm. The nation doesn't want to see the president doing anything out of his normal routine because we don't want to put anybody in a panic. Really? I mean, is someone convinced that the American public really will fall for this?
Well, here we go with no drama. Obama, my gosh, it seems like it's 2012 all over again. But let's look at the numbers here, Ed. When this slew of fundraisers is over, and there's 5 of them in the next 24 hours, that will make 398 fundraisers that President Obama has been on since he took office, which is a record breaker. And don't think that the press and the public are both noticing this and wondering, hey, wait a minute, how can you be flying around the country and going to Hollywood parties when these kind of situations are erupting here and abroad, Ed? And part 2 of all that is that the White House has tried to change its strategy here, its deflection strategy, and claim that, you know, the president's a guy on the go. He's got his pen, he's got his phone, he's got his contacts. He can be president when he's riding in his airplane.
With all this stomping and whining and all this crying that we're doing here, though, and we all know what's going on here, isn't it fair to say, though, that it's not going to make any difference whatsoever? This is a president and this is an administration that will do what they're doing. We hear you. We really aren't going to pay any attention to you, but it's just going to go our way no matter what popular approval says.
Well, it definitely seems that way, Ed. It definitely seems like there's a number of strategists that think that, oh, if you acknowledge a crisis, then this is not the best way to handle a crisis. You have to make sure that it's business as usual, no matter what. But we also have to take into account how America appears on the global stage, how America is appearing to Americans as well. And that's a very important factor here, Ed.
I thought some of the numbers that came out were interesting because we've had some polls now that have talked about both President Obama and President Putin. And we have a little graph we're going to show our viewers here that shows President Obama's approval rating and Putin's approval. Putin's at 83%. Of course, this is Russia, where they learn about one thing out of every 15 that happen. and the president sitting at 44%. It really goes to show, I think, that the American people are actually paying attention a little bit to this president, because they are saying that we are not happy with your job. So I'm wondering again, inside the Beltway, are Democrats really running in fear right now with the midterms coming up? Do they just wish that this president would do something positive to make the left look good?
Well, I don't know if it's going to go that far, Ed, but I definitely think that they're getting nervous. And you're right about these poll numbers, because Gallup conducted a poll of 2,000 Russians face to face. Think about that. That's a lot of people and a lot of opinions.
And they're all still alive at last check, too. None of them have been sent to a gulag.
That's right. Well, 83% of them approve of President Putin. And also about 3/4 of them are happy with the government. They trust the military. They're feeling really good about themselves these days. And go on the other side with the Americans. And certainly President Obama's approval rating has lingered around 40% and below. But getting back to your question regarding whether or not the Democrats are getting nervous, I think they're getting nervous in the House and the Senate, but there's still an underlying loyalty to President Obama that they're not quite going to give up yet.
Funny thing is about this, Rick Perry was one time considered to be buried as any sort of a contender. He was pretty much gone. Nobody wanted to think about him now. However, he seems to be back right now. Has Rick Perry really managed to benefit from all this, and has he truly brought his stature back up to that of a potential 2016 contender, in your opinion?
Oh, absolutely so. I think he has reinvented himself. Not only did he get a pair of his wonderful new hipster glasses, but he's got a whole new line. He's been very strident and struck a lot of presidential postures. But Mr. Perry has also provided numbers to the American public where he's revealed that the state of Texas itself has spent $500 million trying to deal with the border crisis. That's a $500 million with a B there, Ed, and that's a lot to contend with. And plus, he's also framed his talk with kind of a sympathetic thing towards the poor kids on the border that are distressed. So he's picked his way very carefully along here and has a much better public profile than he had in previous months. I think his moments on the campaign trail way back in 2012 are being forgotten very quickly.
Jennifer, I am not going to let you get away with just a couple of words on that. We have to talk about the fact that he is now the bespectacled Rick Perry. It would seem to me as if somebody, a really good PR person, got a hold of him somewhere and said, all right, we'll change this, we'll change this, we'll change this, and oh yeah, by the way, the glasses will probably make you look a lot more presidential. It's a wonderful show moment, don't you think?
Oh, yes. I mean, we're definitely getting into presidential branding here, and I personally disapprove of all the branding that goes on, but it does go on. And you have to think about the American public, because they're way more smarter than I think the strategists give them credit for, and they will listen to what Mr. Perry's proposals are. They will pay attention to the fact that he has brought businesses to Texas and has some of those numbers to prove it. He's got a distinct style, and maybe it's getting a little more distinct, or maybe stinkier. I don't know.
By the way, I only got about 15 seconds left. How's the rumble now after the Obamacare decision yesterday?
They're still rumbling, definitely. And there's still lots of pushing and shoving going along inside the Beltway here in terms of the effects on D.C. and the greater effects for Obamacare in the public sector elsewhere.
Like I said, Obamacare is the news gift that just keeps on giving for those of us in the industry every single day. Jennifer, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. Let's do it again. Thanks so much.
You betcha.
All right, Jennifer Harper joining us as we go inside the Beltway on a daily basis. And she is right. I mean, look, Rick Perry suddenly looks very presidential. Of course, what he's done is being seen as very presidential as well. We continue with next up, the man who spoke his mind. My commentary about Tony Dungy and the React on MidPoint.
Pat Boone here with a word about bank safety. Do you think your money is safe in the bank? Don't bank on it. A generation ago, bank accounts felt secure and they paid interest. This encouraged the virtue of thrift and saving. But today, bank accounts pay virtually nothing, and they've shifted from low risk to high risk. For example, did you know your money deposited in most U.S. banks could be subject to limited withdrawal and even confiscation? Oh yes, and that's just the first of 19 risks explained in a new white paper entitled Don't Bank on It. You still think your bank deposits are safe? You better get this vital new Don't Bank on It white paper now. Call the number on the screen or Visit SwissAmerica.com, the gold standard. Learn how simple it is to become your own banker today.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, guarding your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose. When you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. Obamacare isn't working for all Americans. Let's stop, take a deep breath, and recognize it's seriously flawed. Let's put patients first by focusing on free market solutions Americans can be proud of. America is blessed with a creative spirit that has conquered diseases, ended epidemics, and given millions of people the opportunity to live longer, healthier lives. We can once again have the greatest healthcare system on earth if Washington gets out of the way. If you want to hold Washington accountable and truly save American healthcare, join me and sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our healthcare. Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website and sign the petition today.
Let's work together and save American healthcare, sign the petition, and unleash the great American spirit again.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I'm Michael Sam. I'm a football player and I'm gay. My purpose and focus right now is playing football. I came out to my team this last August, and coming out to them, they rallied around me, they supported me.
Interesting comments about Michael Sam. Sam is the first openly gay man to be selected in the NFL draft. He was taken 249th by the St. Louis Rams. There are those who say they would not have drafted Sam, and Tony Dungy is among them. Dungy won a Super Bowl with the Indianapolis Colts in 2006. He talked to the Tampa Bay Tribune about Sam, quote, "I wouldn't have taken him, not because I don't believe Michael Sam should have a chance to play, but I wouldn't want to deal with all of it. It's not going to be totally smooth. Things will happen," end quote. He didn't elaborate on exactly what that meant.
To be honest, I'm not the one you want to side with when it comes to picking sports. Despite the fact I covered the NFL for well over 20 years and knew the teams as well as they sometimes knew themselves, I all too often picked with my heart and not my head. Hey, I was the guy who said the Miami Dolphins were going to roll over the San Francisco 49ers in the first Super Bowl where Dan Marino was a quarterback. And I also knew beyond the shadow of any doubt Marino would be in at least 3 or 4 more big games before the end of his career. So you get my drift. This one, though, this one I nailed. when Michael Sam was picked by the St. Louis Rams in the 7th and final round of the NFL draft this year, the 249th player selected, I spoke with several former sports colleagues, placed a friendly wager. The wager was that in the week NFL training camps were prepping to open for business in 2014, a former coach would make a statement about Sam. I predicted that statement, whoever it was, whomever made it, would light the controversial fire about the first openly gay player being selected in the draft. And that comment would center around why he would not have used a draft choice on Sam and why it would be a distraction. I was more certain of this happening than I was about that Marino Super Bowl. And truth be told, I had a hunch it was going to be someone just like Tony Dungy, an honorable, truthful, and humble man who has never been afraid to speak his mind, never concerned about how others viewed his opinions on certain matters. Of course, what we saw in the seconds after Dungy's statement hit the national sports talk show gabfests, where more often than not bovine excrement is the order of the day and any consideration for the facts in a story go right out the window with any announcer credibility, was backlash, anger, derision, criticism. And then again, most of that came from these same jockstrap mentalities and 24/7 network sycophants who thrive on jumping on things people say and then twisting them to fit their need for self-appreciation and, of course, ratings. Dungy is perhaps the most solid of the core guy you will ever meet. And I knew there was more to the story, which is why I personally waited to make a comment.
I don't think it was malicious. I think he was just saying he didn't want to deal with all the fallout that's going to come with drafting Michael Sam, which I think is completely understandable.
In a statement today, Dungy said in part he gave the interview weeks ago just as an Oprah Winfrey reality show was going to chronicle Michael Sam's first season. I was not asked whether or not Michael Sam deserves an opportunity to play in the NFL. He absolutely does. I was not asked whether his sexual orientation should play a part in the evaluation process. It should not. I was not asked whether I would have a problem having Michael Sam on my team. I would not. I do not believe Michael's sexual orientation will be a distraction to his teammates or his organization. I do, however, believe that the media attention that comes with it will be a distraction. Unfortunately, we are all seeing this play out now, and I feel badly that my remarks played a role in the distraction.
He's a religious man. He doesn't believe in same-sex marriage. In 2007, he spoke out publicly in favor of an amendment to the Indiana state constitution that would define marriage as between a man and a woman. That is seen by many as the damning element of what they now call his hypocrisy. Whether you agree or disagree with Dungy's comments is your personal stance. Those who know the NFL may not say it publicly, but privately they'll tell you Dungy's point dead on in a sports sense. They'll tell you that Sam was at the time of the draft a marginal player who many teams would not have used a draft choice on were he straight, gay, blue, green, or armed with a magical sixth sense about the game. And coaches hate distractions, the kind they believe will cost them titles and maybe even their jobs. Michael Sam deserves a chance to show what he can do. Tony Dungy also deserves the same right given to everyone, that of expressing their personal opinion and revealing who they are and what they believe in. Interesting how a certain segment of society is always pressing for everybody to be able to speak their mind freely, to reveal who they really are, and not be damned for saying it. Yet when the message isn't what they want to hear, they are first to hammer away and deem as evil those who are doing exactly that, but it just doesn't fit their idea of what is right and what is allowed. Talk about hypocrisy, and that is telling it like it is.
Do you have questions about Medicare? Are you new to Medicare? Are you wondering about your choices? With over 30 years of Medicare experience, United Healthcare Medicare Solutions can help. Call now to learn more about plans available to you, including AARP Medicare plans, or to get this free Medicare Made Clear answer guide. It was created to help make the different parts of Medicare easier to understand. Medicare has two main parts, Parts A and B, to help cover a lot of your expenses, like hospital care and doctor visits. But they still won't cover all of your costs. United Healthcare has the information you need to help you be better prepared when making Medicare decisions. So call toll-free now or visit us online. Are you looking for something nice and easy, like a single plan that combines Medicare Parts A and B with medical and drug coverage? Well, a Medicare Advantage plan can give you doctor, hospital, and prescription drug coverage all in one plan. Maybe you'd like help paying for your prescriptions. Consider a Part D prescription drug plan. These plans can help reduce the cost of your prescription drugs. Call now to learn more about what United Healthcare offers, like AARP Medicare plans. We'll send you Medicare Made Clear free. One of the many ways United Healthcare can help guide you through your Medicare choices. If you or someone you love is new to Medicare, retiring, losing employers' retiree health benefits, or simply looking for answers to Medicare questions, like what's the difference between Parts A, B, C, and D, call toll-free now or visit us online and download your guide free at answerstomedicare.com/TV. It's full of useful information to help you understand your Medicare choices, and it's only from United Healthcare Medicare Solutions. Call right now or visit us online.
Everything old is new again. Russia's invading countries, the Russian leader defying the West to do anything to stop him. And now we have China playing cozy with the bear and hammering away at those hated capitalists. Back to the future, and it's not a good thing when it comes to international diplomacy. The newest set of rulings on Obamacare once again pound home the reality of a badly written law filled with fraud and taxpayer waste. So what will be the immediate fallout for a president and his party come the midterms? And hear what happens when a group of African-American Republicans dare to make their beliefs known at a recent NAACP meeting. Was it not supposed to be all about compromise and getting along? It's all about the answers and the guests you won't see anywhere else, as we question everything for Wednesday, July 23rd, 2014. For the entire team, I'm Ed Berliner, and we welcome you to MidPoint, where we will also be hearing how the world views a decision not to fly commercial airliners into Israel, and a jaunt to Outland, where the special people live and frolic. All after John Bachman brings us another edition of Newsmax Now.
And thank you very much, Ed. More concerning news coming out today about the immigration crisis. The Justice Department now confirming that thousands of illegal minor immigrants from Central America are not showing up for their deportation hearings across the country, as many people predicted. The Dallas Morning News has more on the story. In fact, the paper reports that just this week alone, 18 out of 20 unaccompanied migrant children from either Honduras, Guatemala, or El Salvador have failed to turn up for their immigration hearings. We also have more, as you can see right here on Newsmax.com as well. And today, House leadership, including Speaker John Boehner, are saying they also want National Guard troops to head to the U.S. border to help take care of the immigration crisis.
Uniquely qualified to address these types of humanitarian crises, and utilizing their expertise would free up border agents to focus on their job of securing the border. Now, the president said yesterday he'd consider doing that only if he gets more money with no strings attached. In other words, he won't do it for the kids. It's all about politics.
Well, the Speaker has had a special working group taking a look at this issue. This news coming out today. And of course, you remember that Texas Governor Rick Perry also sending 1,000 guardsmen to the border, but they will only be there to observe. They will not be allowed to interact with any illegals or suspected illegals in the same way that Border Patrol officers do today. Also, the Obama administration today continues their crackdown on coal and other fossil fuels. Federal regulators have just announced a new proposal to phase out thousands of older rail tank cars that carry crude oil. The move comes after disasters like this one, a train derailment, oil spill, and huge explosion. This was in Quebec, Canada, actually, last July. The Department of Transportation said that the older tank cars that are currently still on the tracks will have to be either retrofitted or replaced. Accident investigators have complained for decades that the cars are too easily punctured or ruptured, wind derailed, and the contents spill over, and this can be the result sometimes. No word yet on whether or not this will mean more cost for you and I at the pump. Meantime, in North Dakota, another oil problem here. An oil supply company going up in flames this week. The fire broke out early yesterday in an industrial area of the oil-rich region of western North Dakota. No injuries were reported, thankfully. A hazardous response team and National Guard troops are also there monitoring air quality near the site. Emergency responders are also expected to remain on that site for the next couple of days. More news ahead in 30 minutes. I'm John Bachman. Now back to Ed Berliner in MidPoint.
America needs to be very aware of what is going on, because what is happening will be China will be paying for the gas probably in rubles, and so consequently what will happen between these two countries is that they will be trading in their own respective currencies. So Russia will hold a lot of Chinese yuan, and China may be holding a lot of Russian rubles. Consequently, they will not be holding US dollars as a result.
It's a point we brought up a few times in the last week when the subject turns to Russia and their latest bloody affair in the Ukraine, but it seems to be wandering around the periphery in many notable minds. Can't do that any longer. While we're all concerned with what is next for the bear, we cannot lose sight of their friendship with China and what that can bring to the table as the world seeks to punish the dictator Vladimir Putin. Let's welcome to MidPoint former Deputy Assistant to Vice President Dick Cheney for National Security Affairs and the CEO of DC International Advisory, Stephen Yates, joins us in MidPoint. Stephen, thanks so much for being here today.
Very happy to be with you. Thank you.
Is it fair to say that we are perhaps missing the boat when it comes to China, that in essence what is happening now with Putin, we also need to keep that scant eye at what China thinks about this and how they may use it to their advantage?
In several ways, actually, but we're human, and we put people atop of government. A lot of times they can focus only on really one thing at a time, and sometimes they don't even do a good job at that. There are a lot of parallels between the challenge we've been facing with Russia and Ukraine and things that could happen in East Asia. China has revisionist territorial claims. There are financial dealings between Russia and China that are of great consequence. A lot of times they block and tackle for one another at the UN Security Council, shielding the other party from sanctions or other kinds of pressure internationally. And so it's quite right to look at how we're thinking about and dealing with Russia and be mindful of similar concerns with China.
We've got maybe 20, 25 years of Cold War uneasiness here between these two nations now, these two superpowers here. Why are they starting to drift closer together?
Well, in some ways, they have marriages of convenience when their interests align. They have a common interest in trying to push back the United States and others if we have moralistic claims on human rights. And they have interest from time to time in trying to take the U.S. down a notch in its competitive advantages with them or with other parties around the world. But they're also both dependent on us, China especially so, in having a voracious consumer market in America continue to take in enormous amounts of goods that are made in China, much to China's advantage. So China in some ways is vulnerable to market swings in ways that Russia is less so. So the threat of sanctions would have a greater impact on China than it does, say, in our dealings with Russia in recent months.
When you talk about China, of course, and a lot of the economics that go on here right now, in your opinion, and knowing the two sides here and the relationship as you do, with regard to Vladimir Putin and Putin right now and the way that he is pretty much stonewalling and he is telling the West, we didn't do it, we're here. It's the same old Cold War rhetoric that we have heard for so long. Is there a possibility that the Chinese, because they are drifting closer together, may then go to Putin and tell him either back off, calm down, to use the euphemism, if you will, chill out a little bit and kind of and wait for things to settle down, maybe use a little bit of their power with him?
I would say only if there's real evidence to the Chinese leaders that this is costing them something. At this point, it's mostly public relations. If there is a significant fluctuation in the price of oil, that will be something that gets the Chinese leaders' attention greatly. But it's going to have to be something that's significant and over time. Absent that, they tend not to go to Putin and other strong leaders and tell them how they should be doing things, and they also have some sympathy with what Putin is doing. They have revisionist territorial claims. There are occasionally conflicts where they will deny whether they had anything to do with it, whether their fishing boats were really doing things on behalf of the government. And so they seek solidarity with Putin in his effort to say, wait a minute, you don't have any evidence, you shouldn't be sanctioning us.
When we look at the People's Daily, the Chinese publication here, I want to show everybody here a quick headline and some news from July the 20th that came out. And this is where they are basically showing their support for Putin. Russian President Vladimir Putin has reiterated the importance for all sides not to make hasty conclusions and politicize statements until the investigation of the Malaysian airliner crash is over. No proof has been found so far to clarify the cause or identify the perpetrator. If you put into context what is going on here right now, China says one of their foreign policy bedrocks is always we want to stay out of other nations' internal affairs here right now. So it really is a little bit of a dichotomy here, because certainly Russia is doing absolutely that in Crimea right now. So is it something of a mixed signal, and what might be behind that?
Well, it very much is a mixed signal, but communists tend not to have a problem with contradictions, and I think that's basically one of the bedrock challenges we have here. Non-intervention is supposed to be one of the cardinal rules of their foreign policy. Russia not only intervened in Ukraine, it took territory, and it has these rebels that only basically someone with their head completely in the sand would say aren't actually Russian supported, if not outright Russian military forces and capabilities. China, in this case, is basically using almost the Pravda model in their own publication to try to say what their version of the truth is. It may be the case that we don't have video proof of who did this, and there may be some problems with the crime scene in the Ukraine, but part of that problem is because the rebels don't give people access that standard international procedure would call for in a crash like this, especially an incident involving a takedown by surface-to-air missile. So this is an example of China aligning on propaganda with Russia, trying to tell people to cool down.
When we see, as American consumers, so many products, I know I do it, a number of people do it as well. We pick up the products and we see those three words that we see on, it seems, almost 90% of what we use these days, made in China. So we think of American consumers, I believe, as China of something of a friend. They're there to help us. They're a consumer-friendly nation. All the talk of the debt seems to go away sometimes. We seem to be very satisfied in that. Are we missing the boat in many ways? And again, I'm not trying to throw us back into the Cold War, if you will, between us and China, but are we missing the boat sometimes to think that they're all here just because it's money and debt service? This is still a very potent military sitting there, and it is still something that if we are going to be very judicious in how we look at the rest of the world, we need to keep that eye on China always, just in case.
Oh, I completely agree. I don't think it has to be back into a Cold War mindset as basically the Chinese news service and others would like to say this kind of thinking describes. I think we just need to be realistic. China has a sizable military. It has advanced greatly in recent decades. They have revisionist sovereignty claims. They do, in material ways, undermine our alliances with key partners in Asia. They have enabled a nuclear North Korea. This is not an everyday challenge or a run-of-the-mill challenge. This is a serious strategic, geostrategic challenge, and we have to take it seriously in all of those forms. We have a deep and complicated economic relationship. The people of China are not necessarily the same as the government of China, but we have to be mindful that the government has power, and they're the ones that we interact with in terms of government-to-government relations. The economic relationship can do some good, but we have to be careful with that too.
Would you agree then with some who say that because of that tight economic relationship we have now with the Chinese, simply because of consumer products and also debt service, that maybe the Chinese are playing us beautifully?
Tell the control room that the IFB just dropped.
Okay, I think he couldn't hear us. You can hear there from Idaho that he cannot hear us right now. We'll go ahead and see if we can reestablish that. Stephen, let's try once again. Can you hear us okay? Okay, the IFB dropped right now. We got a couple of minutes left. Let's see if we can reestablish, because I want to get his answer back on that one question here, because too often it seems that we still look at China as being the friendly neighbor, if you will. They're here. They supply us with a tremendous amount of goods. And yet it would seem that certainly the American consumer, and maybe even the American government in so many ways, still likes to look at China and say, well, wait a minute, everything's okay, they're now our friends, everything is over from the past here right now. When in essence, if you talk to some of the experts who look at what China is doing, and they still have an eye on that Chinese military and the Chinese government, remembering that it is a communist government, they'll still be the ones to tell you that there still is a slight problem here, and we've got to be very, very careful with what we do with the Chinese. Also, it comes down to, once again, to what kind of a respect factor the Chinese have for the American presidency at this point. We have talked many times about how many nations around the country simply do not have the respect for Barack Obama that many other nations had for George Bush, a Bill Clinton, a George H.W. Bush. So that absolutely has to walk its way into the discussion sooner or later. It is also fair to say that when you look at what's happening between Moscow and China, these two neighbors have a real antipathy toward the Western democratic values. They have a mutual interest in natural resources. They are now coming closer together. So if you look at what Vladimir Putin is now doing, when Putin basically tells the Americans, the European Union, and others that this is what we're doing, we're not going to listen to you, we don't need to listen to you, you then have to begin to wonder, who he has behind him. And then again, what kind of power he thinks he has. The Chinese are somebody, they are our friends, they are working with us, they hold our debt service, let's not forget. But in the same breath, this is still a nation that at the end of the day, and as you heard him mention here, basically has a lot to do with North Korea, and in the same breath is still a communist nation that still views us as perhaps the dirty capitalist. Okay, maybe not the dirty capitalist because they're willing to take our money, but in the same breath, they still look at us that way, all right? We will have to move on, and we thank Stephen Yates. On deck, what happens when a group of African Americans goes to an NAACP meeting and lets it be known they are Republicans? That's next on MidPoint.
I'm at St. Jude because I had a cancer inside of me. They diagnosed me with a brain tumor. You have to be strong and don't give up. Attitude is everything. You have to fight.
Imagine your doctor tells you your child has cancer with only months to live. Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you turn to? Fortunately, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is fighting every day to save children's lives. And with a gift of just $19 a month, you can join the fight.
This is my kid that they're giving back to me. I am so grateful.
At St. Jude, no family ever receives a bill. In fact, no family pays St. Jude for anything. That's why your gift of $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, is so important.
When I thought that I might lose my son, they gave me hope.
You are not only saving a child's life, you're breathing life back into that family.
If I hadn't have come here, I wouldn't have my son.
St. Jude's life-saving research and treatment is shared freely with hospitals around the world.
St. Jude gives you hope and happiness. They're helping us live. Maybe in the future, kids won't have to go through this. We'll find a cure and it'll all be over.
Please, call and become a St. Jude Partner in Hope right now.
At that moment, it hit me. This is why I joined the Guard. I couldn't believe it. I just saved a life to somebody from my hometown.
Be there for your community at NationalGuard.com.
In recent history, the Democrat Party has created the illusion that their agenda and their policies are what's best for black people. Somehow it's been forgotten that the Republican Party was founded in 1854 as an abolitionist movement with one simple creed, that slavery is a violation of the rights of man. Frederick Douglass called Republicans the party of freedom and progress, and the first Republican president was Abraham Lincoln, the author of the Emancipation Proclamation. It was Republicans in Congress who authored the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, giving former slaves citizenship, voting rights, and due process of law.
There are wars going on in America over any number of controversial issues. More often than not, these are wars being created to stir up anger and create more than the occasional sideshow to the real issue. However, what is happening to those African Americans who reveal to friends, colleagues, and certain groups they are not Democrats and seek another political path is all too real, and it is being severely underreported until now. Welcome into MidPoint, former president of the NAACP chapter in Garland, Texas, Baptist minister, member of Freedom Works, and one who can speak from personal experience about this issue, Reverend C.L. Bryant joins us today. Reverend, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ed, for having me on.
Reverend, I want to go to what happened in Las Vegas recently, and I want to get your take on this immediately. Freedom Works, your group, allowed to set up a booth at the NAACP's 105th annual convention in Las Vegas. Now, according to some, you were respectfully questioned about your beliefs in being a member of the Republican Party. Other websites say that it was openly hostile. It was an awful display of intolerance when an African-American woman approached your booth and talked to you, and I believe you also had Deneen Borelli who was there. Could you set us straight and give us your perspective on exactly what happened?
What was on display, Ed, it was an example of a total brainwashing of a group of people over a period of time. 105 years the NAACP has been in existence. And I do believe that the founders of the organization would be appalled at the condition of black folks in 2014 America. Dr. Thomas Sowell, in my movie, Runaway Slave, said these words himself, I quote, "Even under slavery itself, you had more black babies being born to two-parent families than you do today." That is shocking. And the NAACP has stood by in the midst of this type of destruction of the black family and have actually been co-conspirators in that destruction.
Well, let me ask this. With regard to that incident itself, in your opinion, were you treated respectfully or was it something else?
It was totally disrespectful because we were there to participate and bring a broader view to this particular conversation. We were there to liberate the conversation. Should black people all think the same way? Should we all act the same way? Should we all talk the same way on various issues? According to the NAACP and the way we were treated there, yes, we should. There should be no diversity among us. We should all be the same people, and every size should fit us as far as progressive liberalism and as far as progressive thought patterns are concerned. And so, yes, we were very much disrespected for our conservative view.
Who in the NAACP is setting this sort of a tone, and where are they taking their marching orders from, if anybody?
Well, I do believe, and I did say this, the question was asked, has the NAACP become an arm of the Democrat Party? And that was vehemently denied. If, in fact, you could see the entire clip, the entire portion of what went on, you would understand that there was a very heated exchange that went on. We, of course, tried to maintain our composure in the midst of this, but the fact of the matter is they are taking their marching orders from progressive liberals. They have become an arm of progressive liberal politics. They won't admit it, but it's very apparent, it is obvious that that is going on.
Then if there is an illusion of what democratic ideals are, according to some people here, we see a tremendous amount of groundswell in the country from African Americans wanting to learn more about their government, wanting to get more involved here. In your opinion, then, why then are members of the NAACP able to push these people, to push your fellow African Americans into a belief system that you think is, or what many people would believe, is racist and bigoted?
There's a certain tribalism that goes on very much in the African American or the black community. I don't necessarily adhere to that African American label, but let's, for the sake of conversation, use colors as we do in America.
Okay.
There's a certain tribalism that goes on in this country, and many times it is co-opted from the church through the black preacher. What he says goes. There is a phenomenon that is very common and to black people, and it's this. If you don't go along with the same type of ideals that the tribe goes along with, then you can be ostracized by your family. You can be ostracized by your church and your community if, in fact, you sing some different song or march to a different drummer. It is one that is born out of slavery in this country. Well, truly, we once were all in the same boat as African Americans. But here in the year 2014, there is not one thing that I can name in this country that my color, the color of my skin, would stop me from doing if I wanted to do it. And so there's a diversity that has occurred among our people, like all other Americans, that the NAACP is failing to recognize.
Would it be your opinion then that the NAACP, and again, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm taking what you've said and what other people have said as well, that in many ways the NAACP is enslaving black people across America?
I charge them with being co-conspirators in the continuing bondage of a group of people. There are many who, in fact, have run away. My movie, Runaway Slave, speaks of that very thing. It took courage for that slave to say, I don't want the master's food. I don't want his housing. I don't want his clothing. All I want is my freedom. And so it was with the Mayflower Pilgrims when they came here. They didn't have any guarantees that they would ever succeed or even make it to this country. And so it doesn't matter if your ancestors came to these shores on the Mayflower or if they came here in the hulls of slave ships like mine did. In the DNA of every true American and what's available to every true American in this country is a thirst for liberty and freedom, and you can have it. But you can lose it if, in fact, we continue to embrace the types of policies that come from progressive liberalism.
The Democratic Party talks about the Republicans, and they admonish the Republicans for voter ID laws. They say that this is an attempt to disenfranchise black voters. This despite the fact that, according to several reports, black turnout actually increased the last cycle in Georgia and Indiana, two states with some of the toughest voter ID laws. Is this just, in your opinion, an example of the Democratic lie that is being told to black Americans?
It is an emotional talking point that in many cases does work. When you start telling black folks that churches will burn, that the Klan will march, and that they won't be able to vote, you're playing to their emotions. It is a very twisted, it is a very sick way to keep people in a certain pattern, but it has been used effectively. And I do charge also so many black churches who are being tools of this type of political rhetoric. I charge black ministers who in fact engage in this type of political rhetoric, knowing that these are lies, because there is no way that you can have a child in school. There's no way that you can have a checking account. There's no way that you can travel on airplanes or buses without some type of ID. And so this is totally ridiculous.
I have a very few seconds left. In Florida, near Jacksonville, a Republican congressional candidate's campaign sign vandalized by white-face paint last week. Overwhelmingly Democratic voter registration. I'm going to let our folks see it here. Glo Smith had this happen to her. It was her billboard. It was white-faced over. It is this sort of idea that makes people think that blacks are not wanted if you're a Republican in the black community. 30 seconds. How do you overcome this, and how do you then defeat it?
By telling our story. The story of the Republican Party, the story of conservatism and the core values that black people have traditionally embraced are a great success story. In fact, not only is America the greatest success story that the world has ever known, black people in this country should stop looking at themselves as victims, but start looking at ourselves as victors. We are still here through it all, regardless of what has happened, regardless of what the trials of America, the trials of life, whatever has happened, we're still here. And may I remind everyone
10 seconds.
The story of mankind is the story of human tragedy. And we're no different, except for the fact that we have overcome here in America. And we can continue.
Reverend Bryant, thank you so much for your time. We will do it again, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Still on the dance card, how does this latest Obamacare ruling affect doctors? It's next.
I'll never forget that moment. The moment I realized I was overweight and I needed help. I remember thinking, I don't want to be this anymore. I was 50 pounds overweight. 50. I needed to do something about it. But what? I called Nutrisystem, the best option for me.
Now you can lose weight even faster with a Fast 5 kit from Nutrisystem. Lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem, and it's completely changed my life for the better.
Order your 28-day MyWay plan right now, and we'll rush you the Fast 5 free. You'll get 1 week of fantastic energizing shakes, 1 week of amazing Craving Crusher shakes, plus 1 week of delicious meals, and it's all free.
Nutrisystem helped me get my life back. And 7 years later, I'm still a believer. Don't wait. Call now and make today the moment when you start looking and feeling great.
Call now, 877-293-SIZE, and lose your first 5 pounds free.
Technology gives you security. Technology gives you control. And now, technology gives you home security and control in a new and revolutionary way. Introducing Plug and Protect from LiveWatch Security, an easy-to-use wireless security system customized just for your home, controlled from any smartphone, tablet, or computer, and monitored by professionals 24/7. Go to livewatch.com to get Plug and Protect interactive security delivered to your door. Arm or disarm your system from anywhere. Lock or unlock your doors. Turn your lights off or on. Even oversee your home with live video. With Plug and Protect, your security system is configured, tested, and then shipped directly to your home. No wires, no installers, just peel and place. Go to livewatch.com because with Plug and Protect, we customize your security to fit your home. The Plug and Protect secret is technology. With technology, you buy airline tickets without a travel agent. You trade stocks without a stockbroker. Now, with Plug and Protect, you can protect your home without an installer, pushy salesman, or a long contract.
Every day, the kids got out of school before I left work. I worried whether they were home okay. But then I found Plug and Protect from LiveWatch. And now I see when they open the front door, so I know they're home safe. LiveWatch helps me stay in touch and in control.
Founded by a paramedic in Kansas, serving tens of thousands of homes in all 50 states, and trusted by policemen and firemen throughout the country, LiveWatch is the new choice for home security. No door-to-door salespeople, no messy installers, no long-term contracts, just Plug and Protect. Now you too can enjoy the home security and control you want for your family. Try Plug and Protect in your home for a full 90 days. Included is our hassle-free guarantee. Go to livewatch.com. Plug and Protect is not available in stores, so go to livewatch.com right now. That's livewatch.com.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. The White House is currently dealing with a border crisis that's spiraling out of control. U.S. veterans are dying at the hands of failing Department of Veterans Affairs. The IRS is potentially being used as a weapon to target conservative groups. Obamacare is falling apart, and the Obama administration is dealing with an imploding Middle East. So what else could go wrong? Well, apparently Snoop Dogg, an international award-winning rapper and entertainer, says he smoked marijuana at the White House. According to US Today, Snoop Dogg was in fact at the White House in December. Snoop admitted to lighting up at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue during an interview with Jimmy Kimmel.
Have you ever smoked at the White House?
In the bathroom.
You did? In the White House?
In the bathroom.
The rapper, who is not shy about his love for smoking weed, said Obama was not in the White House when he toked up in the bathroom. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to MidPoint.
Thank you for being part of the next segment, as a matter of fact. Often I am asked where this place Outland really is, what the physical location of it might be, to which I must always reply it exists merely in the mind of those special individuals, the ones we sometimes wonder about, those who are wandering the streets of every city and town at this very moment, who look and dress like us, but would not do well if asked to take part in the daily saliva test. Sort of like Snoop Dogg. Very well done. Let's get to it. Here's our Outland for today. It is always good to bring a politician into Outland. This is John Dingell, or at least this is certainly what John Dingell has to say, which gets him permanent residence in Outland. You see, the representative doesn't know what a Kardashian is. He replied to the EPA's Office of Water and its auto-generated tweet talking about the celebrity's new game, basically wondering what a Kardashian is. He later on said, I have no idea what a Kardashian is, and I rarely play games. Are you okay? Representative, we can tell you that a Kardashian is indeed something you get on your hands if you don't wash. Now, we always talk a lot about what happens in Florida, or Florida, D-U-H. We all have those moments when we are, simply put, just angry and we're in traffic. In Florida, what happens a lot of time are drawbridges, raise, and stop traffic. Don't do it in front of this guy ever again.
83-year-old Mario Perez-Tano, who in the heat of road rage
pulled out a gun.
It was just so scary. It's like, just like that, super quick.
It happened Friday afternoon on the corner of Northwest 12th Avenue and 7th Street when a white Acura driven by Miguel Garcia tried to squeeze into northbound traffic, but Perezano would not let him in. The pair had some words, then it picked up when the elderly man reached for a gun.
An old man had his hand up and was shooting 2 shots at a car.
The white Acura takes off and the old man in the red Beetle takes off after him. And then that's when I dialed 911 because I saw the bridge coming up.
No one got hurt, and cops were quick to hit the scene, cuff and arrest Perezano, who is waking up behind bars, charged with 1 count of attempted murder.
It's another day in South Florida paradise. And oh yeah, by the way, if you've ever wondered what an editorial meeting looks like from MidPoint just before the show, check this out. It is the Jordanian journalist Players putting on that. That is Shaker El Johari, furious when he learned he would have to sit on a panel with a gentleman described as the lawyer and pro-Syrian regime activist. They were discussing the situation in Syria and Gaza on a television program there. There is absolutely, and I want to say this very clearly, there is no truth to the rumor that our producer, David Orth, actually was being played by one of those individuals there. And now another Medical Minute with Dr. Chauncey Crandall.
Hello, I'm back this week with this very important question. Is your doctor taking your blood pressure correctly? You may assume so, but a new study shows you may be wrong. According to this new research, doctors often cut corners when taking blood pressure and record readings that may be much too high. This is important information. First, if your blood pressure reading is wrong, you could be misdiagnosed with high blood pressure and put on powerful drugs for the rest of your life. You could also be denied health insurance and your job may even be put in jeopardy. This is important information, so pay close attention. Number 1, is your doctor using the right size blood pressure cuff? Cuffs come in 2 different sizes, average and large, but too often only the average size cuff is even used, even on the person with a larger forearm. If the cuff is too tight, the reading will be too high. Number 2, is your blood pressure taken in both of your arms? Doctors are taught that this is not mandatory, but it should be. Even a small difference between the 2 pressure readings can mean you are at great risk of suffering from a stroke or even dying of heart disease. And number 3, is your blood pressure taken when you are seated on the examining table with your legs dangling in the air? If so, your reading may be 10 points too high. You should be seated in the chair with your feet on the floor and your legs apart and relaxed. Don't cross your legs at either the knees or the ankles. Remember, if your doctor doesn't take your blood pressure the correct way, you could be putting your health at risk. Many of you already have my book, The Simple Heart Cure. So if you do, you can read all about high blood pressure in Chapter 8. That's my health tip for this week. I'll see you next week with another important Heart Health Minute.
Get your copy of Dr. Crandall's best-selling book, The Simple Heart Cure, for just $4.95 with this special offer. Go to www.simpleheartbook.com to get your copy today. That's simpleheartbook.com.
Summer's here, and now's the best time to get clear skin. That's why the amazing Proactive Plus has a totally new offer like never before. Order the faster, more effective Proactive Plus today. Get free shipping and 2 of our hottest customer favorites, worth $37 free. Our deep cleansing body wash, plus our best-selling dark spot corrector. It's your summer glow duo for sexy, summer-ready skin all over.
The body wash is amazing. Now I can wear tank tops, I can wear bathing suits. I just feel free now, like I can wear whatever I want.
And if you're dealing with dark marks, age spots, or even sun damage, you're going to love the Dark Spot Corrector.
Since using the dark spot corrector, the dark spots that I'd had from acne, it's like going away. My skin looks amazing.
I would just put it wherever there was a blemish, and before I knew it, they faded.
You'll be astonished how quickly Proactive Plus can fix your skin. In fact, it clears blemishes 4 times faster than the leading topical prescription. And nourishing ingredients give your skin extra care.
And now that my skin's clear, I feel so sexy, so confident. It makes me want to show off how good my skin looks.
Acne medicine and skincare products can cost you hundreds. But call now and get Proactive Plus for only $39.95. And you get our amazing body wash, plus the incredible dark spot corrector, both free. Still not sure? Then we'll make this offer irresistible. Act fast and we'll knock $10 off. Just $29.95. And shipping is free.
Give it a try. Don't settle with being unhappy with your skin. Proactive Plus works.
Get all this, a $109 value for just $29.95. And if your skin isn't absolutely gorgeous, we'll send your money back, guaranteed. But call before this offer sells out. Call 1-800-397-8177. That's 1-800-397-8177.
My name is Ed Berliner. I'm a host and a news anchor here at Newsmax. This country is desperate for a new voice to speak to that new generation that wants to know it all. Don't give me just half the story. Don't give me a piece of it. Let me get it all. Every single day, when people come to Newsmax, they're going to get an entire story. A new voice, a new generation. Newsmax TV.
Congress intended for every eligible American to have access to tax credits that would lower their health care costs, regardless of whether it was state officials or federal officials who were running the marketplace. I think that is a pretty clear intent of the congressional law. This will work its way through the legal process, and we are confident in the legal case that the Department of Justice will be making.
For those who deal in facts, there can be not a single doubt. Obamacare, the Affordable Health Care Act, the medical insurance coverage, boon or boondoggle, no matter what you call it, is on the skids, and the American people are the ones calling for it to be scrapped or redone. A new poll from Politico shows 45% of Americans believe the law needs to be repealed in its entirety. Another 38% admit it needs some serious work. Imagine what you're going through. Now imagine what this all means from the doctor's angle. Imagine no more. Welcome into MidPoint. The author of Optimal Living 360, Dr. Sanjay Jain, joins us today. Doctor, thank you so much for being here.
How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. Right off the top, how difficult is Obamacare making life for you and fellow doctors? People, and everybody thinks doctors are wealthy and they're just making a fortune here, but the guys and the gals just trying to make a living.
Well, you know, I like to pull my hair out, and luckily I have a lot of my hair, but maybe in another week it might be all pulled out. It's very frustrating. And it's very complicated because you got both sides, you know, the Republicans, Democrats become very political, and the consumers, the doctors, the insurance companies are all caught in the middle. So it's very problematic.
The Federal Appeals Court rulings that came down yesterday, when you talk about tearing your hair out, have you really had a chance to look at it, absorb it, and then try to figure out how you're going to make it work with patients? Because now this throws another wrench into how normal doctors will deal with patients on a daily basis. I guarantee you there's people right now who are going to walk into a doctor's office and say, am I covered?
Yeah, and that's the biggest issue is not only do patients have questions, doctors and healthcare providers, they all have questions themselves. So we're getting back to square one. First of all, we had the big issue of trying to get the health coverage when we had the big blow up with on healthcare.gov and trying to get on the exchange. And so now we've sort of weathered that storm, and now this thing blew up just within the last few days in terms of the subsidies. So the biggest question now is, you know, part of the Affordable Care Act was getting subsidies for a lot of patients who could not afford to get health care. So what this new ruling has done is actually taken away subsidies, or actually ruled in the fact that these subsidies are illegal. So now what? So the patients who are actually, about 4.7 million patients have actually benefited from the subsidies. So these people are now asking, so are we going to lose our subsidies? What's next? So the problem is the open enrollment comes in November. Now they're talking about Supreme Court ruling in 2015. So what's going to happen from now until then to these patients who are sort of up in the air? And not only patients, but doctors, people who are billing these health insurance providers, trying to figure that out in terms of how are we going to fit in this new ruling that just took place yesterday.
Doctor, I will give you something of a personal note here and what I hear from doctors, because I know a lot of people in the medical community. There are patients out there who will say, come on, doctors are making a ton of money right now. They're all getting insurance. The insurance companies are keeping them busy. They've got their cars, their houses. Doctors are making a fortune right now. I hear some doctors saying that, quite frankly, this is something that they're not making a lot of money on, that they're actually, some doctors have told me that they frankly have to close some of their offices now because of Obamacare. They can't make it work. Honestly now, give us some of the reality here. Is this really putting a hardship, a living hardship on physicians?
I would say it's putting a hardship, but there's a perception out there in terms of what doctors have made and are making now. Back in the 80s, it was boom time. There wasn't as much, it's a lot more fee for service, less I would call managed care, and things have gotten more and more commoditized, with physicians actually practicing being bought out by bigger companies. Now a lot of practices are being bought out by hospitals and bigger systems. And now Wall Street has gotten into the game and are purchasing doctor practices in big groups. So really, in terms of what it was back then and what it is now, I completely agree that what it was to be a doctor many years ago has completely changed now. So really, doctors are really become sort of on the bottom of the totem pole in terms of having some control, not only of their practice, but also of their finances. So now you got the government kind of putting this big Affordable Care Act, and also the insurances companies coming in. I like to give an example. It's like going to a McDonald's, and this is what healthcare has become for doctors. Going to a McDonald's, you get a Big Mac that's on the menu. Oh, it's a $2.50, but you actually can buy it for 30 cents. That's what it feels like for doctors when people can come into your shop, and even though you post a sign up that says, okay, the Big Mac's $2.50, people can walk away with the same Big Mac for 30 cents for what it was really charged for. So that's kind of what healthcare has become. And so it's become, there's limits on terms of the ceiling, in terms of pricing, and it's become more competitive. So there is a crunch for doctors, absolutely.
I got about 90 seconds left here. In your opinion, and the opinion of those doctors that you know, is Obamacare as it exists today putting patients' lives at risk every day?
Well, I don't know if it puts lives at risk. I think the biggest issue is, I think the intent is, I see the intent in trying to get everybody healthy. And of course, we all hear of a healthy society is a prosperous society, but we also have to put things in perspective in terms of what's happening to those patients who are actually getting bumped. And I'll give you a quick example. With this new infusion of new patients coming in, a lot of the people who are maybe 2 weeks out are getting pushed out maybe 4 weeks or even 5 weeks. So access has been affected. So that could have an effect on patient care. So that still has to be answered, that whole question.
Got about 30 seconds left. I know this isn't a lot of time to do it, but what would doctors do to make it better?
Really, doctors have tried to go into organized medicine and truly try to lobby and kind of make their case. They got the American Medical Association, all these political action committees, but really, as a doctor, to survive, you still had to do the bread and butter, still had to be on top of your game, still has to stay up with medical technology and medical treatments. And that's the best way to survive as a doctor, is to stay up to date and just do the best job as you can. And, the cards play out what it is, whatever hands dealt out, you have to manage that. But I think, doctors are very adaptable, but it's not the same as it used to be.
You've answered a lot of questions, but there's a whole lot more. I certainly hope you'll agree to come back on again. I want to tell everybody that Dr. Sanjay Jain's book is Optimal Living 360, Smart Decisions, Making for a Balanced Life. Dr. Jain, again, thank you so much for being with us. Promise us you'll come back again and we'll talk more about it from the doctor's perspective.
Thank you. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
You got it. All right, Dr. Jain, thank you. The Obamacare decision, and I can tell you this from talking to a lot of medical professionals, the doctors are just as angry, and the doctors are concerned that they're still going to be able to deliver a standard of care that Americans expect. Next up, Israel is furious at actions taken by the FAA and major airlines. That's the focus of this edition of News Call, right here on MidPoint.
Is your property a jungle choked with overgrown saplings and brush? Take back your land with a DR Field and Brush Mower. Nothing stops the DR. Thick grass and weeds, out-of-control brush, briars, or canes, even 3-inch thick trees are no match for America's favorite brush mower. Lock it in and rip it up. Clear it out, clean it up, and rediscover the land you've lost. And with optional attachments, the self-propelled DR Field and Brush Mower converts into a finish mower, a snow thrower, a portable chipper, or a grater blade. It's a field and brush cutter and so much more.
Call 1-800-456-2023 for a free buyer's guide and DVD. You'll learn how you can try a DR at home for 6 months for as low as $58 a month and get free shipping. Hurry, this offer won't last. Call 1-800-456-2023. Online at drfieldbrush.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. To save our health care, let's follow these principles. Our health is the most personal thing we possess. Its care must be under our control. Bureaucracy must be prevented from discouraging choice and innovation. Large-scale change shouldn't be imposed from the top down because you have the right to choose what's best for you. Your personal medical information should be your property, period. States should have the flexibility to develop their own options. You should be free to buy coverage consistent with your moral and religious beliefs. Physicians deserve to practice without the fear of frivolous lawsuits. Join me. Save our health care. Please sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website. Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our health care.
Save our health care. Sign the petition today.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, guarding your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose when you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
There is anger in the Middle East. It is the height of tourist season in Israel, and this is when they need most of the tourists from around the world, specifically America, to come and experience Israel. It's not happening now. The FAA has decided not to fly for a limited amount of time into Ben Gurion Airport. Meantime, major airlines have also said because of missiles landing close to the airport, they too are not going to fly to Israel. That story is the subject of today's News Call.
After a rocket fired from Gaza slammed into this neighborhood near the Ben Gurion Airport, airlines began to scramble. As this flight track shows, Delta Flight 468 from New York to Tel Aviv did a U-turn in the skies over the Greek Isles and diverted to Paris. U.S. Airways canceled its flight from Philadelphia, and United scrubbed 2 trips out of Newark. The FAA then quickly made the stand-down mandatory. In a notice to airmen, the FAA warned of a potentially hazardous situation created by the armed conflict in Israel and Gaza.
Within a matter of hours, the FAA had grounded all U.S. flights to Israel. European carriers, including Air France, Lufthansa, Austrian Airlines, Swissair, and KLM, voluntarily suspended their flights. The only direct flights between Israel and New York are aboard El Al, Israel's national airline, which is determined to keep flying. Passengers stepped off their long flights from Israel today and were stunned by the news.
One airline refusing to cancel its flights is Israel's El Al, much to the relief of Ayala Ziv, who is flying home with her young son and the rest of her family after a month-long visit to Los Angeles. She says although rocket fire has people in her neighborhood sometimes running to shelters, she thinks avoiding Israel is a mistake.
I was very, very sorry because I thought that America is our best friend in the world and they should keep flying to Israel and to show the world that Israel is tough and they are standing with us.
Jessica Shapiro works for the Jewish National Fund and is disregarding the FAA's ban and booked a flight on Israel's El Al airline, just in case her American flight with Delta is canceled tomorrow night. Her co-worker, Mitch Rosenzweig, is leaving Saturday. They're headed to some of the most volatile areas to lend a hand and show support. Americans taking a big risk at a very dangerous time.
Former head of security for El Al Israel Airlines, Isaac Yafat, believes it is safe to fly to and from Israel.
We need to end this war. But doesn't mean that Israel is so weak that the world has to be afraid that Israel will be destroyed.
Lyndon Baum, too, believes the FAA may be overreacting.
I really believe that this is an overabundance of caution, and it's a mistake because it rewards terrorism. This will be seen by Hamas as a big victory, the fact that they can get Americans to stop coming to Israel.
The Consul General of Israel called the restrictions an overreaction, saying the ban gives the terrorists a small victory.
Our airport is completely safe. El Al continues to fly in and out of Israel. We know that El Al takes security very seriously.
In no way is policy related or politically related. It is just related to how we can best protect American citizens.
An angry Israeli transport minister called the U.S. move a, quote, prize to terror. The country's own airline, El Al, continues to fly. Currently, the FAA prohibits U.S. airlines from flying over eastern Ukraine and Crimea, North Korea, northern Ethiopia, and Libya. U.S. planes can fly over Iraq, but only above 20,000 feet. And the FAA warns of dangers including missiles and small arms fire for airlines flying over 8 other countries, including Syria and Afghanistan.
An update on the story right now. The Federal Aviation Administration has extended its prohibition U.S. flights to Israel for a second 24 hours. That's a day after the missile fell within a mile of the Tel Aviv airport. According to the FAA in a statement, the agency is working closely with the government of Israel to review the significant new information they have provided and determine whether potential risks to U.S. civil aviation are mitigated so the agency can resolve concerns as quickly as possible. The European Aviation Safety Agency says it still strongly recommends airlines refrain from flying there. We'll continue to follow this story, of course. Next hour, Israel responds to suggestions they're guilty of war crimes, the reality of border numbers in the immigration crisis, and what's another week without another auto crisis in the American industry? It's coming up right here, where we question everything.
Tired of faded bumpers, foggy headlights, weathered, sun-damaged vehicles? You've spent time and money applying product again and again to hide those embarrassing parts on your car, only to have that work fade away. Not anymore. Introducing Wipe New, the world's longest-lasting solution for restoring and protecting your vehicle. And we guarantee it to last for years. Just apply Wipe New once. It's quick and easy to do. Just one swipe and watch your car turn showroom new.
I've been a professional auto detailer for 30 years. Now I restore faded plastic rather than just clean it. And I do it in no time at all. I apply Wipe New to bumpers, side panels, even dashes and interior plastic. Simply apply it once and it lasts for years. White New is the most revolutionary car care product that I've used in my entire detailing career.
We applied White New to the driver's side of this vehicle. We then sent this car through over 100 powerful car washes. White New never faded or washed away, proving that the results will last for years of real-world environmental exposure.
I don't think I've ever seen it, Brando. I got it about 2 years old, and I've never seen it shine like this.
And we guarantee it to last for years. Use it on bumpers, decorative outside panels, side view mirrors, even vinyl or leather car seats for a protected showroom new shine. Don't spend a fortune on temporary fixes. Order the revolutionary White New for only $19.99. But wait, order now and we'll double the size. That's enough for 2 cars. There's still more. Order now and get the Pro Detailing Kit with the headlight applicator bonus. Just pay separate shipping and processing. That's right, White New restores your headlights too. Order now and get it all, plus a 2-year guarantee. A $50 value for only $19.99. Order now.
To get your White New detailing kit, call 1-800-408-5381. That's 1-800-408-5381. White New comes with a 2-year money-back guarantee, so call 1-800-408-5381 today.
The United Nations is slamming away at Israel, suggesting they are guilty of war crimes as the number of civilian dead in the Gaza Strip rises. It does beg the question as to why the world is not hammering away at Hamas for putting their own people in mortal danger. There remains the real possibility that those General Motors execs who knew what was going on with regard to faulty switches could face serious jail time. How far is the government willing to go, and what would be the impact on global automakers? And we are daily talking about emotional, heart-wrenching stories from the American Southwest border on the immigration crisis. Stories that may indeed be distracting from the reality of what's happening on the ground. What's happening here is another chapter in the fastest 3 hours of news. Others promise, we deliver, and question everything for Wednesday, July 23rd, 2014. Also this hour is something else to ask the car salesman about when they point to those wonderful mileage ratings, as if you needed something else to be concerned about. No concern that it is all on the way right after John Bachman deals this edition of Newsmax Now.
Thanks, Ed. And as you reported earlier here on the program, the FAA continuing that ban on flying into Israel today. Also more concerned about what's happening in the skies as fighting continues in eastern Ukraine today. Even after the downing of that Malaysian jetliner that killed nearly 300 civilians, Ukrainian officials are confirming today that 2 fighter jets were also shot down. According to Reuters, a Ukrainian Security Council member says that the preliminary information that they have right now is that missiles brought down those jets were fired from Ukraine. Meantime, so what is Europe supposed to do about Vladimir Putin, who keeps bullying his neighbors? Christian Whiten, a senior advisor at the U.S. State Department under President Bush, criticized Europe for its slow response to all this.
It was almost sad today. The Europeans said that they're going to talk about so-called Phase 3 sanctions. Those would be sanctions against broad sectors of the Russian economy. But neither of those things are going to happen. And the Europeans were saying, well, at least the fact that we're talking about these is a sign of progress. But Putin just doesn't see it that way.
Whiten is among a number of people calling for stricter sanctions against the Russians. The former State Department advisor went on to say it's pretty obvious that Putin wants to dominate that region. He also says it's clear that these separatists are Russian soldiers who simply took off their Russian insignia patches and their uniforms. Meantime, turning our attention to Capitol Hill, House Oversight Chairman Darrell Issa and some other members of that committee grilled IRS boss John Koskinen again today. This is his 3rd hearing in just the last 2 months. The IRS is claiming it already handed over all the documents that it has, and they say they can't make lost emails magically reappear. Republican Congressman Jim Jordan doesn't necessarily agree.
Now think about this. The IRS has identified 83 custodians of documents and information. The IRS has identified these people associated with this targeting of conservative groups, and now almost a fourth of them may have had hard drive crashes. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Do you believe it? Also now we're hearing from investigators that the hard drives were maybe just scratched, not totally destroyed as the IRS has led Congress to believe. Also, IT experts are saying there may be backup files to access the emails in question. Many lawmakers believe those emails will, in fact, prove a direct link between the White House and the IRS in attempts to target conservative groups. I'm John Bachman. More news ahead in 30 minutes. Now here's Ed Berliner with the rest of MidPoint.
Israel has a right to defend itself against rocket and tunnel attacks from Hamas. And as a result of its operations, Israel has already done significant damage to Hamas's terrorist infrastructure in Gaza. I've also said, however, that we have serious concerns about the rising number of Palestinian civilian deaths and the loss of Israeli lives. And that is why it now has to be our focus and the focus of the international community to bring about a ceasefire that ends the fighting and that can stop the deaths of innocent civilians, both in Gaza and in Israel.
It is no longer just a regional conflict. This is not in any stretch of the imagination a lingering disagreement. What is happening in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas needs to be called what it is, a war, and a bloody one at that, claiming innocent lives. The United Nations has weighed in, now accusing Israel of multiple violations of human rights and humanitarian laws for the killing of Palestinian civilians. Israel is fighting back and would seem to be losing the global perception and the war a little more every single day. Welcome into MidPoint, the former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, a modern settlement named after an ancient city from the Hebrew Bible. Founder and president of the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund, David Rubin, joins us. Mr. Rubin, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you. Good to be with you.
Let me get your reaction, first of all, to what is at the top of the news right now. The United Nations accusing Israel of war crimes, killing civilians, shelling houses and hospitals during its 2-week-old offensive. There is also mounting pressure globally for Israel to halt the war. Would you first, of course, please, knowing the land, knowing the history as well, react to the charge of war crimes?
Well, I think people have to be very careful when they use a term like war crimes. What I call war crimes is the Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists hiding their missiles, their missile launchers, hiding their weapons, hiding their bomb factories in schools, in hospitals, and in people's homes. This has been going on for years. Nobody says anything about it. It's terribly shocking, and it is indeed a war crime. So I think people have to be very careful about what they say, even if it's President Obama and John Kerry, who are magnificent at speaking out of both sides of their mouth. On one hand, they say Israel has a right to defend itself. On the other hand, and in the same breath, they say that they're very concerned about civilian casualties and war crimes and all this other nonsense. For 5 years, or 6 years already, Israel's hands have been tied behind its back because of United States pressure, because of pressure from the Obama administration that does not want Israel to retaliate, not to Islamic Jihad, not to Hamas, and not to Iran. And I think that there comes a time when a country has to defend itself. Finally, Israel is defending itself, and I hope that that will continue.
We continue to hear, and we have had strategists here and analysts as well, former members of the CIA, who have told us that beyond the shadow of a doubt, there are missiles being stored in hospitals, in homes, in schools, that there is absolutely no doubt in the intelligence community's mind of what Hamas is doing in using their own people as human shields. However, when I say that, it would seem that the world is not seeing the message. What they are seeing are crushed hospitals. What they are seeing is over 600 Palestinians dead and only a few, on a relative scale, Israelis. So then, knowing that the media is covering this, knowing that we see the destruction going on in the Gaza Strip, how then is Israel supposed to fight the public opinion war here when there are members of the world community and now the UN seeing the same images, supposedly many people knowing the same intelligence, yet they are holding Israel responsible?
Well, I don't think that Israel has to play an unfair game. When you're dealing with the left-wing media, you're going to get biased reports. That's a given. Unfortunately, Israel is being faced with this, and it's expected to play a game that's just unbalanced. I want to ask people this question. I want to ask every one of your viewers this question. During World War II, the Allies were fighting against the Nazis, did they complain when the Nazis were being bombed? Did they complain when Dresden and Berlin were being bombed? There comes a point when you're fighting an enemy and you have to respond to the enemy. You have to fight a war. You know, we in the West have forgotten how to fight wars. When you fight a war, you fight to win, and especially when you're dealing with Islamic terrorists who respect no rules of Western civilization, who respect no rules of the civilized world, in fact, and will hide their bombers and hide their weapons behind women and children. There comes a point when a country has to defend itself, and if those civilians who are hiding the terrorists behind them and refusing to evacuate when Israel sends leaflets and text messages and loudspeakers to warn them 48 hours in advance that the Israeli army is coming, they refuse to leave those locations, then obviously some civilians are going to get killed. Okay, welcome to war. Okay, this is the real world, and for 6 years we've remained silent. We've foolishly, I think, allowed the terrorists to bomb our cities, to fire rockets, thousands upon thousands of rockets at Israeli cities, aiming at civilians. We don't aim at civilians. We aim at military targets. If civilians are hurt in the process, well, that is something that unfortunately happens in war.
You brought up the Germans here just a few moments ago. There are a number of people who have used the word Nazi in describing who they believe Hamas is and in putting Hamas on the same level. Listening to you right now, would you be willing to say, or would it be your opinion and those of others, that perhaps Hamas is worse than the Nazis were, that they are on a higher level of evil than what the German machine was at that time?
Hamas is absolutely worse than Nazism. We're talking about a jihadist mentality. Okay, jihad, for those of you or those of your viewers who don't know, jihad means holy war against all non-Muslims, what they call the unbelievers. And what that means is that any Muslim in the Middle East who does not accept second or third class status has to be eliminated. And this is what Hamas believes. All you have to do is look at their doctrine, which comes straight from the Muslim Brotherhood. Hamas is an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, which believes that Western civilization as a whole should be destroyed. They believe that the Jews are descended from apes and monkeys, not just descended from apes and monkeys, but we actually are considered apes and monkeys in their ideology. And a lot of the preachers have been saying that in recent days. I hear them just across the valley from my home in Shiloh, in the Arab villages. I hear the mosques at 4:30 in the morning, loud and clear on their loudspeakers, saying "Itbach al Yehud," kill the Jews. This is something that's real. We're talking about real people who hear these chants of "kill the Jews." I don't think that's very different from the Nazis, frankly.
A couple of minutes that we have left here. Ben Stein is the former speechwriter for Presidents Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. He was on the Newsmax TV network yesterday on the Steve Malzberg Show, where he said, and I'll let you hear it as well, and our audience also, that the elite liberal media is disguising anti-Semitism as just being anti-Israel. Let's listen to this.
Well, I think it's even more basic than that, I'm really sorry to say. I think there's just a certain amount of Jew hatred in the media, especially in the elite media. There's just, we've moved from right-wing anti-Semitism to left-wing anti-Semitism, and of course they try to pretend it's not anti-Semitism, it's really anti-Israel, but it's really anti-Semitism.
Why does this exist, and in your opinion, who is the worst when it comes to being anti-Jewish in the liberal media?
Well, I don't want to name specific names, but the fact is that there is this strange kind of collusion, and I wrote about this in my book, The Islamic Tsunami, Israel and America in the Age of Obama. This strange collusion between the left-wing secularists and the Islamic ideologues. It's very strange that there would be this collusion, but both of those segments of the population want to see the destruction of Judeo-Christian civilization, want to see the destruction of America, and of course, want to see the destruction of Israel. Because of that, they have this immediate commonality of goals, and they work together towards that. You would think they'd have nothing in common, the left-wing secularists and the Islamic ideologues who believe in wife-beating, who believe in hanging homosexuals in the city square. But nonetheless, there is that commonality of interest, and they unfortunately work together towards those common goals. And one of those goals is the destruction of Israel.
10 seconds. Is John Kerry going to be able to do anything, or is he wasting his time?
Frankly, I hope that John Kerry is wasting his time. He's coming to the Middle East calling for a ceasefire. This is a very common thing. We've been in this before. They call for a ceasefire while Israel is finally winning. Okay, for 6 years, as the rockets were falling, thousands of rockets on Israeli cities.
Okay, we're going to have to stop it there, unfortunately. Mr. Rubin, we're all out of time. We appreciate your time. Please stay safe, and we'll do it again. We thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next, heartbreaking stories from the American southwest border.
I'm at St. Jude because I had a cancer inside of me. They diagnosed me with a brain tumor. You have to be strong and don't give up. Attitude is everything. You have to fight.
Imagine your doctor tells you your child has cancer with only months to live. Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you turn to? Fortunately, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is fighting every day to save children's lives. And with a gift of just $19 a month, you can join the fight.
This is my kid that they're giving back to me. I am so grateful.
At St. Jude, no family ever receives a bill. In fact, no family pays St. Jude for anything. That's why your gift of $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, is so important.
When I thought that I might lose my son, they gave me hope.
You are not only saving a child's life, you're breathing life back into that family.
If I hadn't come here, I wouldn't have my son.
St. Jude's life-saving research and treatment is shared freely with hospitals around the world.
St. Jude gives you hope and happiness. They're helping us live. Maybe in the future, kids won't have to go through this. We'll find a cure and it'll all be over.
Please, call and become a St. Jude Partner in Hope right now.
Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Governor Rick Perry said he was sympathetic to the plight of unaccompanied minors crossing the border, but all the attention has shifted resources away from keeping crime out of his state.
That is why today I am using my executive authority as governor of Texas and activating the National Guard.
He said more than 200,000 criminal aliens have been booked into Texas jails since 2008. Under Perry's plan, which will cost about $12 million per month, the deployed units will serve in a support role, assisting state and federal officers already on the ground to spot illegal activity.
We cannot discount the emotional toll and impact of the pictures we see every day from the American southwest border. Video of kids climbing onto freight trains for rides to an uncertain future, people being herded into immigration centers, the looks in the eyes of those who had zero idea what they were getting themselves into. Yet it's those pictures and stories, those anecdotes in many cases, that continue skewing the real story. Let's welcome to MidPoint senior editor at The Federalist and a veteran journalist for outlets such as The Washington Post, LA Times, and The Wall Street Journal. Molly Hemingway joins us today on MidPoint. Molly, thanks for being here.
It's great to be here.
Molly, I want to start right out with a quote from The Federalist, and I want our viewers to see this as well. Anecdotes are obviously more powerful than data. They're personalized and real in ways numbers never will be. But anecdotes also provide a really cheap means of simultaneously avoiding rigorous thought and making yourself appear more compassionate or caring than everyone else. This law hurt this person, therefore we need to change that law. What, you don't care about that person and that person hurt? You must be a monster. Would you go into a little detail here on what brought that about and what specifically you were aiming that at?
It's been interesting to follow these stories at the border. There were two stories that really brought this to mind. One was about Jose Antonio Vargas, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist who's in this country illegally. He is friends with a lot of journalists, and they really like him. And so they have been using his story as a means to push for changing the law. And then the other story, of course, is about the unaccompanied minors or families with minor children, where we are learning about just horrible things about their journey to the United States, rape, murder, drugs and whatnot. And the way these stories are told is as if there's only one answer to the problem, and that answer is to change policy in one particular way. And I reject that. I think that on the one hand, we're really missing out the stories of so many people who do not feel comfortable smuggling their children to this country, either ethically or they don't have the funds to do it. We are missing out on the consequences of quickly bringing people to this country without thinking about the health consequences or what it means to reward people for breaking laws, and that concerns me greatly.
Who is telling the stories then that it would seem are mostly based on, and I've talked about this as well on this show, rumors, innuendos, secondhand information, and everything else we seem to hear other than facts?
I'm not even saying that these stories are untrue. I read a great story, for instance, today from Kirsten Powers at USA Today, and it is, again, all about children witnessing rape, murder, being asked to smuggle drugs. But what I reject is this idea that because those things are happening, that therefore we should reward people for engaging in smuggling. We make this quick leap between the heartbreaking, heart-tugging stories and a certain policy prescription that might in fact actually make the problem worse. And so I want us to not just be thinking about the stories of people who are here, but also the stories of people who aren't here, the stories of people who have come here legally and have worked very hard, people in my family who are immigrants who have worked very hard to become part of the fabric of this country legally. And I want to also have us be thinking about all the unintended consequences of a quick change to policy that might in fact make the problem worse.
What you just talked about on your own personal experience here of your family, is that what's really getting lost here? And I say that having talked to a number of people in Southern California, South Florida, other areas of the country whose families have come here legally, worked hard, went through exactly what they were supposed to. Many of these people now feel, well, what did we do? We came here and did it right, and here we are basically giving a full ride boat to whomever comes here illegally in any other way. So when we talk about your personal experience, is that where a lot of this is focused?
I do think that this speaks to why the media have done a bad job of being in touch with what a lot of Americans think. You can almost see it in the way that they cover this. They're frustrated that Americans don't actually agree with them, that the Jose Antonio Vargas situation dictates some particular change. But if the only person you know who's an immigrant is an illegal immigrant who is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, it might skew the way you cover this, as opposed to if you actually know real immigrants who came here legally, or if you have lived in a border state where you're dealing with some of the problems, the trade-offs that come with a poorly controlled border situation. And so if you're out of touch with those real experiences that a lot of those of us who've lived in the West have experienced, or those of us who have family members who have come here legally or have worked to become legal once they have come illegally, that's a totally different experience than if you only know, one illegal person here.
So does this then speak to the American public that is being in some ways perhaps fooled by the media?
I think that the American public actually isn't being fooled. And I think that the intractability of the opinion is very frustrating for journalists and other elites. But I think what you're seeing here is people who, who have that real day-to-day experience with the tensions, with state budgets, or with the trade-offs that come either in terms of health, security, or education, and a poorly designed immigration policy. We do probably all agree that we need to fix our immigration policy, but how we do that is not a foregone conclusion. And I think that the elites in DC and media and whatnot need to come to terms with that.
As someone who writes about this and someone who has that familial background as well here, how do you then personally react when you hear people call this an invasion?
Well, I don't know. I think actually that's another thing, though, that everybody could work on improving the way that we talk about this. We're talking about humans. We're talking about our neighbors. We want to have the best possible outcome for citizens of this country and people who want to become citizens, and also our neighboring countries and people throughout the world. I think that the language we use could be much more civilized and humane, and that we should work to keep calm and disciplined in all of that.
What are the family issues that we're missing here? Because, and I'm going to throw this to you as well while I quote a couple of numbers here. We have 100,000 Americans lose a spouse or parent to deportation every single year. 11.7 million undocumented immigrants live in the U.S. Nearly 1/4 of undocumented immigrants, or about 3 million, have children or spouses who are U.S. citizens. Is that what we're missing here? And is that what you would like to see more covered?
I think there are family splits happening all along the line. I mean, there are a lot of children who have come to this country who should be reunited with their families. We should work on having a policy that enables families to stay together. We know the best thing for children is, in fact, if they can be with their mother and their father and in an intact family unit. And we should have a policy that recognizes that reality. And that's not going to happen if we are splitting families up.
Would you not admit, though, that there certainly is the possibility, because we have a lot of unsavory elements that are involved in here. We have human traffickers that are involved in here. We've had reports of MS-13 gangs. We've had reports of so many different individuals crossing the border as part of this. Would you not at least say that it is worthy of those people who are concerned as to what's coming over the border and what is happening to their homes? I know people in Texas right now who, quite frankly, are scared to death of what's happening every single day. They are afraid next that something is going to cross the border, someone is going to cross the border that will take the lives of them, their families. Something will happen.
That's what blows me away about these stories about saying, oh, these people are working with human smugglers who are involved in the drug trade, who rape people, who murder people. We should reward this by making it that they get to do that again by bringing more people here and being involved in this type of criminal activity. It is, we have to think about whether we really want to say that you can do better by being involved with these types of thugs than by following the law and by working to go through the law as written. And if we want to change the law, changing the law. And of course, it's madness to think that this is a great policy to reward people who are engaged in this type of activity. Of course, people would be scared and frightened, and not just, doesn't necessarily have to involve criminal behavior. It can just be the natural things that happen, such as transmission of health problems or whatnot. It is understandable that people would be reticent to have this type of change without thinking through all of the consequences.
In your opinion, then, I got about 90 seconds left. What needs to be done at this point? And again, I point this out by noting the immigration policy is not going to change overnight. We'll still be having this sort of a conversation a month from now because it's not going to happen immediately. So what needs to be done while in everything that we've talked about here, putting all this emotion together and putting some reality into it?
If we really do care about children who are coming unaccompanied or families with young children who are coming, we should care deeply about getting the message out as quickly as possible that they have been misinformed, that this is going to work out well for them. We need to, if we care at all, I mean, President Obama should frankly fly on a plane to some of these countries and just send the message personally. I don't know where you got this idea, but it's wrong. Do not be sending unaccompanied children across the border. That would be loving.
Have we already gone past the point where the people in those countries would even listen?
I think that you need to do something strong, you need to do something clear, but I don't think that we are past that point. I think we have failed to actually share that message as we should.
It would seem as if perhaps that the other people in the South American countries and the governments there need to do some listening as well. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
And they're not doing it either. Molly Hemingway from the Federalist, we thank you so much. We do appreciate it. Please come back and let's do this again.
Thank you.
All right. It is a point to make, too, that she makes about it, Vargas, but also the human traffickers are the ones that many people will tell you are at the very core of this crisis as well. We also point out, as we have many times, there's a tremendous amount of emotional stories that come out of a lot of these areas, and there's a lot of stories about diseases, A lot of it's not true. A lot of it is just that. A lot of it is emotion. A lot of it is secondhand information. A lot of it is rumor, and a lot of it is simply just passed on by politicians who aren't doing their homework to check and make sure that they're passing on the facts to you. It is a muddled situation. We'll continue to try and see if we can make some fact out of it all. Later on this hour, the very real chance that those who worked for GM and covered up the switch issues will be going to prison. You talk to us, we talk to you, right here on MidPoint.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. Obamacare isn't working for all Americans. Let's stop, take a deep breath, and recognize it's seriously flawed. Let's put patients first by focusing on free market solutions Americans can be proud of. America is blessed with a creative spirit that has conquered diseases, ended epidemics, and given millions of people the opportunity to live longer, healthier lives. We can once again have the greatest healthcare system on earth if Washington gets out of the way. If you want to hold Washington accountable and truly save American healthcare, join me and sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our healthcare. Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website and sign the petition today.
Let's work together and save American healthcare, sign the petition, and unleash the great American spirit again.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, guarding your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose when you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Secretary of State John Kerry is in Israel today. Kerry flew into Tel Aviv despite the FAA flight ban to continue his push for a ceasefire in Gaza. Secretary Kerry will meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu later today. Kerry says significant steps have been made in brokering a successful ceasefire, but there's still work to be done. And amid those flight bans, former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg says obstructing flights in and out of Israel is an undeserved victory for Hamas. In sign of defiance, Bloomberg got on a plane last night and made his way to Tel Aviv. Bloomberg says he intends to show his solidarity with the Jewish people and wants to prove it's safe to fly in and out of Israel. Now, over in the Ukraine, where Russian-backed separatists have shot down 2 Ukrainian fighter jets today, the latest shooting comes less than a week after the downing of Malaysian Airlines flight MH17. The Ukrainian planes were providing air support for troops in eastern Ukraine. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to MidPoint.
Thank you, Francesca. Time to check in again with our sister shows here. America's Forum that precedes us, the Steve Malzberg Show that comes after us. First of all, let us turn to the show that begins at 9 o'clock Eastern Time every Monday through Friday, America's Forum. Obamacare has been the issue all day long. It has been one of the biggest stories that we're following. Senator Ron Johnson A Republican from Wisconsin was on America's Forum this morning, basically noting that Congress wrote the law, the health care law, very specifically, and that the Obama administration now is revising history. Why? For their own political purposes.
JD, I wasn't here when they actually wrote the law, but my understanding of why they put the incentive through the state exchanges for the subsidies is to entice the states to actually establish their own exchanges. So no, Congress specifically wrote the law that the subsidies would only flow through state exchanges. That was the inducement. That was the incentive for the states to establish those exchanges. I mean, that was clear. So no, I mean, I think they are revising history here for their own political purposes. But again, the language of the law is quite clear in a number of circumstances where this president has unilaterally changed the law.
One of the interesting side stories on all this is the GAO basically went on a sting operation of their own, finding that the majority of fake Obamacare applications submitted were approved by the health's law enrollment system. They got subsidized insurance coverage in 11 of 18 attempts. Story is just beginning all over again. All right, next up, Hank Scheinkopf, a Democratic strategist and a Newsmax contributor, was on the Steve Mosberg show last night, where he said that part of the reason there are rockets flying over Israel is because there is a weak man in the White House.
If you want to understand why this is occurring, you need to go and look at the White House, because when the White House didn't say to Iran, which got a 4-month extension on building its bombs, stop, guys, then Iran said, no problem, we'll give more money and more weaponry to Hamas and Hezbollah in Lebanon. And that's what they did, you see? So that's the facts of life. When you have a weak man in the White House who doesn't understand international politics, you have disaster. This is a disaster. If the similar thing were happening, that rockets were being sent from Toronto to Buffalo, which is a lot further than the distances of the Middle East, which Americans really don't understand, because it takes 2.5 hours to fly over Texas, 20 minutes to fly over Germany, and 3 minutes to fly over Israel, or thereabouts. Yep. They don't get the distances. So when you have that happening here, people are just jumping out of their skins to go and kill the other guy. But the Israelis are being asked to chill out.
A side note to this, we'll talk to you about in a moment, right after we tell you that at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, America's Forum with J.D. Hayworth. We follow that at noon Eastern Time with MidPoint, and the Steve Mosberg Show at 3 o'clock Eastern Time right here on the Newsmax TV network. Wanted to point out that the FAA has extended their prohibition to flights to Israel for a second 24 hours, and the Europeans are also strongly recommending from flying right now to Ben Gurion Airport. That is all just part of the entire story, and a story that is hopefully going to get better sooner or later. Let's take a moment right now, if you will, for this special presentation of An American Moment.
The 1954 U.S. Supreme Court's decision, Brown versus the Board of Education, declared all laws establishing segregated schools to be unconstitutional. As with the majority of southern cities, Little Rock, Arkansas's Board of Education agreed to comply with the court's ruling. However, Arkansas's Governor Orville Faubus had other ideas.
Units of the National Guard have been and are now being mobilized with the mission to maintain or restore the peace and good order of this community.
President Eisenhower was so disturbed by the governor's decision to completely ignore federal law, he cut short his vacation and returned to the White House to address the nation.
The president's responsibility is inescapable. In accordance with that responsibility, I have today issued an executive order directing the use of troops under federal authority to aid in the execution of federal law at Little Rock, Arkansas.
At the center of the controversy were 9 black students selected by the Little Rock School Board to attend the then all-white Central High School. One of the students, Elizabeth Eckford, arrived at the school separately and found herself confronting an angry crowd of students and bystanders. Suddenly, out of that crowd, as seen here, an older white woman came to her rescue and guided her safely to a bus. Even after the 9 students were admitted to Central High, the year that followed found them being subjected to taunts and abuses, both verbal and physical, by student and parent alike.
Well, I think like if a Spanish or a Chinese person came here, it wouldn't be hard to get along with them. It's just that the Negroes are what you might say more different to us than a Spanish person might be.
However, with the admittance of those brave students on the 25th day of September 1957, the precedent had been set, and soon afterward, all of Little Rock schools voluntarily complied with the court's rulings, and planned school segregation became part of a troubled past. For Newsmax TV, I'm Bill Curtis, and this is an American Moment.
Can you really lose weight without changing your lifestyle? LaToya Q did. In fact, in just 5 months, she lost nearly 2 pounds a week without changing the way she dieted or exercised.
I lost 36 pounds and I went down 4 dress sizes.
Like so many people, LaToya didn't want to change her lifestyle to lose weight. Instead, she decided to take America's #1 selling diet pill, Lipozene.
People kept asking me, "Are you you have to be exercising? You're really you just don't want to tell us what you're doing." I was like, "No, I don't have time to go to a gym. I just took Lipozene and I started seeing results immediately."
Lipozene has now sold over 20 million bottles. That's because Lipozene really works. And to prove it, we conducted our very own double-blind clinical study where all we asked people to do was take Lipozene. And by just taking Lipozene, they lost weight. But here's where it gets really exciting. These people were not asked to change their diet or exercise. And 78% of the weight they lost was pure body fat. Not water, fat.
I'm almost back down to my high school weight, so I'm really loving that.
And for even faster results, you can try Lipozene with moderate diet and exercise.
Feels great to have a six-pack. I didn't think I would have it at my age.
I lost 7 inches off of my waist and I lost 2 dress sizes and I feel amazing.
Now you can join the millions of people who have lost weight with Lipozene by trying it risk-free for only $29.95. Lipozene is guaranteed to help you lose weight or your money back.
Lipozene, it works.
But wait. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll double your order absolutely free. Plus, we'll even pay for your shipping. But that's still not all. To celebrate selling over 20 million bottles of Lipozene, the company will give you a free bottle of Metabo Up with your order. That's a $20 value free. But you must call right now because this exclusive free offer is not available in stores.
Call 1-800-509-9436. That's 1-800-509-9436.
We, the people of the United States,
in order to form a more perfect union,
establish justice,
ensure domestic tranquility,
provide for the common defense,
promote the general welfare,
and secure the blessings of liberty
to ourselves and our posterity.
Do ordain and establish this Constitution
for the United States of America.
If it's Wednesday, it must be time to see who in Detroit is possibly being measured for an orange jumpsuit. The people at General Motors, those who decided they would do whatever it took to keep low about a faulty ignition switch that eventually cost people their lives, haven't seemed too worried about the possibility of going to jail over their inaction. That, however, may change. Time to put the pedal to the metal once again with nationally recognized automotive industry expert who may or may not agree with me that the 1969 Dodge Charger RT was the greatest American muscle car ever made. Lauren Fix joins us. Don't shake your head at me like that. Don't do that.
You know what I have in my garage, and you know I don't agree.
I know, but I'm not going to get into it right now because that's an argument we're going to have at another time here. Because
we'll have that over a couple beers.
The greatest muscle car ever, hands down, 440. But then again, we'll move on. This hide no harm bill going after top executives is fascinating here. It's not in work yet. I mean, it's not something now, but it's something that lawmakers are looking at creating. Could this still come down and affect GM executives, or are we just looking at basically stopping people down the road?
Well, there's a lot of value to this. This is Senator Blumenthal and Senator Casey put together this 10-page act, which they've already submitted to Congress, so it's already on the dockets. That doesn't mean that it's going to pass. This is obviously a conversation to be had. But, you think about this, you think, wow, these guys could go to prison for everything that they've done. And you think about, wow, who's going to go to prison? You're going to send Mary Barra to prison? She didn't sign any ignition switch bills. Are you going to send, Ray DiGiorgio? Well, maybe, but, the thing is, the problem is, you got to remember, the people that are creating this act are the same people that bailed out GM. So does that mean that the car czar, Stephen Ratner, should go to jail? Because, he was there. He knew about it, but he didn't do anything. He knew about the GM nods. This is a whole culture that needs to be changed. And the fact that you're going to pick one executive that you have 24 hours to declare the fact that you have a serious problem with some product. It doesn't necessarily have to be automotive. It could be food. It could be a stroller. It could be anything. And if not, they're going to take an executive to jail. Okay, that one should be an interesting one to hold up in court. I honestly don't think this is going to go through. It may be on the books, but there's a lot of laws in the books, and you know that they know how to skirt them. That's why they have a team of attorneys, which is how we got here to begin with.
Well, here we have the Hide No Harm Act, in case anybody hasn't seen it yet. It would deliver prison terms of up to 5 years and fines for corporate executives who know about a given product's defects and their potential to do harm, yet do nothing to warn their consumer base or employees. However, let me point out, and again, I'm not a lawyer, I just play one on TV, that there's a loophole here because it says that there be actual knowledge of an offense. So you would have to prove there's actual knowledge, which means, again, we're still getting down to the fact who knew, what did they know, when did they know, and who's willing to roll over and basically say that somebody was guilty.
It sounds like an IRS lowest learner kind of
It
situation.
does.
It sounds like it's easy to go, I didn't get it, I didn't get the email, I never read the email, maybe it was sent to me. You know how this goes. This is pretty typical of government. They put these great laws into place, and sometimes too many of them, like you can't carry an ice cream in your back pocket while walking down the streets of Kansas City. It's like, the fact is they're really hard to enforce, and I think that some of these laws are in place, obviously, to protect consumers, and I get that, and I like that. However, what I don't like is the fact that the people that are writing the laws are the ones that are going to find ways to get around it, and I still think that Congress themselves have done enough things that are illegal that they need to go to prison in many cases, and they find ways to get around it, too. So is it just, we're doing this for semantics? Really?
Lauren, would this make anybody at General Motors or anybody in the American or foreign automobile industry shaking their boots if this got passed?
Not a chance. I don't think so. I really don't. I think they'll look at it, they'll go, okay, we'll let the legal department know about it. Let's be aware that you exclude the executives that could potentially know about a problem. That's all that's going to happen, is you're just going to cause no communication between the staff and the executives. That's what it sounds like to me. There'll be a way around it. There always is.
All right, here we go now. Let's get back to EPA numbers here in mile per gallon ratings, because I think what I found here, which really was very interesting in automotive news, where it basically put this down to tax. Predicting consumer fuel economy is basically impossible anyway. So everybody goes and they buy these numbers and they look here, this is what it's EPA rated. Matter of fact, there's even a consideration here that maybe the EPA should let Consumer Reports do all their testing for them. That's how off it is.
Well, it would certainly be more accurate if Consumer Reports did it. But I think one of the things that's important to note is you have to remember when the EPA gets their vehicles, they test it with pure gasoline, which is E0, means no ethanol. When you and I buy gasoline at the pump, it has 10% ethanol. You can buy 15% ethanol, you can buy 85% ethanol, which is 30% less energy per gallon. So that means your fuel economy is going to be 30% less. So how is it possible that the number that's on the window sticker known as a Monroney is really going to be accurate? And here's also something that's interesting. Trucks, you're talking about like half-ton trucks and larger, there is no window sticker. It's not required by law. So they can say whatever number they want their truck to get. So, the problem is, then you've got the electric vehicles and the hybrids that say, we're getting 124 miles to the gallon. Well, that's awesome, but the fact is, you're plugging into the wall, and you have other expenses, and you're still on, road wear and tear. And there's a lot of factors. It's so inaccurate now compared to what it used to be. And the fact is, let's be honest, how many of us have sat through the drive-thru waiting to get our Starbucks or McDonald's, whatever you get, or you're dry cleaning, or waiting outside for your kids to come out of school, you're waiting outside the soccer game. We've all done it. We've all sat in our cars with our cars idling because it's too hot, too cold out, or just don't want to go in the store. So all that's not calculated into real-life numbers. And let's face it, I was just on the expressway driving from New York City all the way to Buffalo, and there was nobody, very few people driving at 55 miles per hour. Most people are going faster, so your numbers are going to be true.
Exactly. We just don't know. It's all just a guess anyway, so we'll continue to guess as we go along. Lauren, it's always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to talk about. We're all out of time, though. Let's do it again next week, and we'll talk about that 1969 Dodge Charger, and if you don't have one on your driveway, and if you don't have one in your garage, then stop with that right now. We'll have that fight another time. LaurenFix.com is the place to go ahead and check out the car coach on a regular basis. We thank her so much for joining us here today. There's her website. I heartily recommend it. Lauren's an old friend. We've known each other for a lot of years, and nobody really knows cars better. By the way, something else to point out, too. In case you missed it, another recall. Chrysler recalling Jeep Commanders and Jeep Grand Cherokees. It is the 2006-07 Jeep Commanders and the 2005-06 Jeep Grand Cherokees. We're talking almost 800,000 vehicles. And guess what? It's for an ignition switch problem. So here we go, all over again. And now you know a little bit more about what happens when you go look at those EPA ratings when you go to buy your next car, right? We thank Lauren for joining us. She'll be here again next week. On our return, the moment America lives for, snappy banter between yours truly and Steve Mulsberg as we prep for the jaunt to New York City. It's coming up next, right here on MidPoint. Wow.
Summer's here, and now's the best time to get clear skin. That's why the amazing Proactive Plus has a totally new offer like never before. Order the faster, more effective Proactive Plus today. Get free shipping and 2 of our hottest customer favorites, worth $37 free. Our deep cleansing body wash, plus our best-selling dark spot corrector. It's your summer glow duo for sexy, summer-ready skin all over.
The body wash is amazing. Now I can wear tank tops. I can wear bathing suits. I just feel free now, like I can wear whatever I want.
And if you're dealing with dark marks, age spots, or even sun damage, you're going to love the dark spot corrector.
Since using the dark spot corrector, the dark spots that I'd had from acne, it's like going away. My skin looks amazing.
I would just put it wherever there was a blemish, and before I knew it, they faded.
You'll be astonished how quickly Proactive Plus can fix your skin. In fact, it clears blemishes 4 times faster than the leading topical prescription. And nourishing ingredients give your skin extra care.
And now that my skin's clear, I feel so sexy, so confident. It makes me want to show off how good my skin looks.
Acne medicine and skincare products can cost you hundreds. But call now and get Proactive Plus for only $39.95. And you get our amazing body wash, plus the incredible dark spot corrector, both free. Still not sure? Then we'll make this offer irresistible. Act fast and we'll knock $10 off. Just $29.95. And shipping is free.
Give it a try. Don't settle with being unhappy with your skin. Proactive Plus works.
Get all this, a $109 value for just $29.95. And if your skin isn't absolutely gorgeous, we'll send your money back, guaranteed. But call before this offer sells out. Call 1-800-397-8177. That's 1-800-397-8177.
Just located. Original U.S. government Morgan silver dollars. The most sought-after coins in American history. Bulletin, 9:15 a.m. New York. National Collectors Mint releases 3,441 of the last surviving United States minted Morgan silver dollars still in existence. Each coin is 92 to 135 years old, but condition is important. And all the U.S. government Morgan silver dollars in this release are guaranteed to be in brilliant uncirculated to fine condition. 320 million Morgan silver dollars were melted by the U.S. government for both world wars. Millions more were melted by silver profiteers again and again as silver prices soared. Each contains over 3/4 of an ounce of pure silver. When silver first hit $50 an ounce, China was a poor nation. Now the Chinese are rich and using 3 times as much silver. Will this drive the price back to $50 or even higher? Silver prices are over 47% higher than they were just 4 years ago. But you can still get the same quality Morgans for our lowest TV price since then. Just $29.90 each. This price can only be guaranteed for the next 7 days. Remember, this is $35 to $45 less than several national retailers charge for a similar Morgan silver dollar. These original United States minted Morgan silver dollars are heavy with 0.900 pure silver and rich in historic value. These last remaining survivors can be yours for just $29.90 each. Price guaranteed for just 7 days. Strict limit of 5 coins per caller. National Collectors Mint protects your purchase with our Silver Dollar money-back guarantee. But you must act soon to own an authentic Morgan Silver Dollar at this price. Orders accepted on a first-come, first-served basis. Avoid disappointment and future regret. Don't miss out. Call now.
Call 1-800-704-7891. That's 1-800-704-7891. There is a strict limit of 5 coins per caller. That's 1-800-704-7891. To what we in the broadcasting business call the crossover, if you will, as it goes from one show to another. This time it goes from us here on MidPoint as it heads for New York City. Steve Malzberg sitting comfortably in a wonderful studio, Midtown Manhattan. God, I hate him for it every single day because he's right there where all the fun is. But it's okay. None of my favorite sports teams are there anyway, so it's okay. The Steve Malzberg Show at 3 o'clock. How's things? Okay. Well, I mean,
wait a minute. Your favorite sports teams are down there? Which ones are they exactly?
No. I'm not. No, wait a minute. First of all, everybody knows that I'm a Boston Bruins hockey fan. Everybody knows that. I'm a big Bruins fan. The other teams we'll discuss at another time. But I will tell you this. When I was a kid growing up, I was a big Mets fan. Loved the Mets. Don't know why. I fell in love with Tom Seaver. I just loved the whole thing. And Tug McGraw in that era. It was great. But I have decided I have walked away from the Mets permanently. It cannot go back ever again because I got sick and tired of that franchise basically doing nothing in order to make themselves better and basically sticking it to the fans for many years with bad teams. I said, that's it. I'm out. I washed my hands. No more Mets. Ever. All
right. I washed my hands earlier, too. I just had my sandwich. Anyway.
That's what I heard. Let's talk about Mayor Bloomberg washing his hands on a flight to Israel.
Well, I got to tell you, this whole flight, this whole ban on flights to Tel Aviv, I first of all, I think it should be left up to the airline. And if the passengers want to sign a waiver, that they're confident enough to fly. I mean, El Al is still flying. You got flights within Israel. Israel hasn't stopped flying from one city to the next. I think that this is politics mostly. I think that the FAA was delivering a little message to Israel, maybe via some other branch of government, and it's kind of a punishment to Israel. Because Israel says publicly that there's really no reason for this whatsoever. Even Shimon Peres, I mean, the leftist of the left in Israel, says that you're rewarding terrorists, and they are rewarding terrorists. Hamas now feels very emboldened and victorious that they could isolate the state of Israel by lobbing some rockets without any direction.
If you think about it,
and Bloomberg went over to prove it.
There might be no better protected airport in the world than Ben Gurion Airport, simply because Iron Dome has shown time and time again that it simply is the right thing to do when you live in a war zone.
Right. They got military hanging around there. They got all kinds of protection because they need it every single day. So, I just think there's politics to this, and I think it stinks. You had one of the U.S. officials, I'm trying to see who it was here, on Wolf Blitzer yesterday, White House National Security Advisor, saying that Israel could do a better job of protecting civilians. I'd like to see how. I'd like to count the number of bombing runs, bombs that have been dropped, days of the tanks that have rolled into Gaza, and the targets they've hit, the tunnels they've destroyed, and then count the number of total deaths on the Palestinian side, and you tell me that it's not amazingly targeted.
About a minute left here. You got to admit that you like what the GAO did closer to home here when it comes down to the recent Obamacare rulings, where they basically went out and found a lot of fraud in all the people. It was a sting operation that they did and found an awful lot of fraud in Obamacare, which basically just confirmed what a lot of people knew.
Yeah, let's see. 11 out of 12 applications submitted using fictitious identities were accepted. This is a heck of a way to run a government and a healthcare system. But what do you expect when government touches something? This is what happens, from the rollout with the website to the incompetence that still exists, and now the fraud. And that's going to drive the costs up for everybody, not to mention the court case yesterday that will go to the Supreme Court. And, we could all hope that the D.C. Circuit Court is upheld, the panel's upheld, and that'll probably be the end of Obamacare.
The president will discuss it when he gets back from his latest run raising money for the Democrats. He'll be more than happy to
Yeah,
discuss
he's
it.
trying. Actually, on vacation, he's going to try to learn the name of one Chicago White Sox player. So if he's ever asked again for his favorite player, he'll have a name in reserve.
Ouch! Ouch! Very nicely done. We're going to leave it on that sporting note because I think that was probably the best shot of the day here. Steve, thanks a lot, buddy. Have a good show.
Take care, Ed. Thank you.
Mind everybody, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. It is America's Forum, right here on the Newsmax TV network with J.D. Hayworth. We're here at noon every day, Monday through Friday, that is, Eastern Time. And then the Steve Malzberg Show, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, right here on the Newsmax TV network. Rock on, true believers. Thank you so much for joining us. We will do it all over again for the entire crew. I'm Ed Berliner. Thanks for joining us. Kick us again right here on MidPoint, where every time we're here, we question everything.
Technology